Online games descend to the real world and I gain a 10x XP. The alarm buzzed faintly in the background. It wasn't loud or jarring, just persistent, like a whisper that refused to be ignored. Raith Valor opened his eyes. The cracks in the ceiling greeted him first. Same dull paint, same corner stain that looked like a dragon if he stared hard enough. For a few seconds he didn't move. His chest rose and fell slowly, as if even breathing too fast might shatter the moment. Then he sat up. No pain. No blood. No gunshot echoing through his mind. Just his small, cluttered room. Posters on the wall were curling at the edges. A second-hand desk sat dusty and untouched. His Neuro Link headset rested on the nightstand, the company logo pulsing softly with blue light. He stared at it. This was before everything. His fingers moved slowly as he picked up his phone. The screen lit up, revealing messages and missed calls, but one alert stood out in red. 60 days until frontier shift. Raith stared at the words. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a dream. He remembered the first time it happened. When the game world had torn into reality, when spells and skills left craters in real cities, when a player's class became their truth. He hadn't been ready. He had chosen wrong. He had trusted the wrong people. Gun mechanic. The class everyone laughed at. Complicated, underpowered, forgotten. A joke. And when he failed to rise, when he became dead weight, she left. Mary. The girl he thought he loved. The one who held his hand, smiled at him, made him believe. All lies. And he had been too blind to see it. Raith lowered the phone and looked at the headset. This time he wouldn't be blind. This time he wouldn't wait for the world to decide his worth. He picked up the headset and placed it over his head. The device clicked softly as it adjusted to his face. A moment later, he felt the familiar pulse of heat against his temples. Neuro Link established. User confirmed. Raith Valor. Welcome back, player. Launch EVO Genesis Frontier. He answered with a single word. Yes. The world vanished in a soft shimmer of light. There was no sound, only a faint pressure as his senses detached from the real. He drifted through silence, a tunnel of white light surrounding him. Then came the scent of grass, the feel of a breeze brushing against his cheek, the warmth of sun filtering through tall trees. He opened his eyes. Arcani's outline stretched before him. A vast field of rolling hills, scattered ruins, and distant mountains. Birds soared overhead. Strange creatures wandered the fields. A wooden sign pointed toward a village path lined with other new players appearing one by one. He remembered this place. The starter zone. The beginning of everything. This time he saw it clearly. Not as a game. As a battlefield. A soft chime echoed in his ears. Please select your initial class. A transparent window hovered in front of him, filled with lines of text and glowing icons. Choose your class path. Available options. Warrior, Mage, Archer, Assassin, Healer, Tamer, Engineer. Then at the bottom a flickering line of red. Hybrid class. Low popularity. Proceed with caution. He reached out, already knowing what he would pick. Gun mechanic. Difficulty rated extreme. High energy cost. Weak early game. Complex aiming systems. Neural sync required. He smiled faintly. Confirm class selection. Confirmed. His body pulsed as the virtual system locked in his build. A second menu appeared, showing his basic gear. Sidearm Viper 9. Primary weapon, XR-12 Marksman Rifle. Utility tool Magnetic Grapple Hook. Starting skill Smart Burst Mark 1. Neural targeting active. The Viper 9 appeared in his hand with a hiss of silver light. It spun once before locking into place. Sleek, matte black, light in his grip. Raith lifted his hand, and the gun floated from his palm. It hovered mid-air, responding to his thoughts with perfect precision. Still works. He felt the link strengthen, a subtle hum between his mind and the summoned weapon. A sense of control, of focus, of purpose. In his past life he had never mastered this class. He never had the time. He was mocked, sidelined, left behind. But now he knew every skill, every trick, every hidden upgrade route, every synergy. And one more thing. He had been given a gift. His experience gain was 10 times faster than before. His leveling speed would leave others in the dust. While they were still killing rabbits, he would be crafting war machines. A small line of text blinked near the corner of his vision. Warning. Gun mechanic class has low solo success rate. Reroll recommended. Raith gave a small laugh. No thanks. He turned toward the path leading out of the starting field. A narrow trail snaked into the forest, where the first quests awaited. Other players were laughing, running, swinging swords or casting spells. He didn't join them. He walked alone. Each step felt heavier than the last, not because of fear but because of what he carried now. A second chance. A debt of betrayal. A promise to never be weak again. This wasn't a game. In 60 days this world would become real. And Raith Valor would be ready. The sky above the Arcani's outlands shifted slightly as the in-game sun climbed higher. Warm light poured across the grassy fields, but Raith felt none of its comfort. He moved along the forest trail alone, the gravel crunching beneath his boots. Tall trees swayed gently on either side. Birds chirped in the canopy, and somewhere deeper in the woods, the growl of a beast echoed once before silence returned. His thoughts weren't on the present. Not yet. They were somewhere else. 3 years ago, in the timeline he had left behind, Raith Valor stood in a different field. That time, it had been the awakening ceremony. Rows of students from his academy lined up under a digital banner that floated in the air. Choose your class. Step forward. Claim your future. Back then he was nervous, hopeful. The moment he placed his hand on the selection pedestal, he saw it. Gun mechanic. No one else had picked it. The instructor even paused when he saw the choice, as if waiting for Raith to realize the mistake and back out. He didn't. When the class was confirmed, the silence that followed was louder than any crowd. He remembered turning around, expecting to see supportive faces. Instead he saw disbelief, pity, mockery. And at the edge of the crowd she stood, Mary, his girlfriend at the time. Beautiful, confident, always in control. The girl every guy had his eye on. But somehow she had chosen him. Or so he thought. After his class was revealed, her smile faltered for the first time. Not in concern. In embarrassment. She didn't speak to him for the rest of the day. Later that night he messaged her. Us to meet up. She agreed. They sat together on the rooftop of their dorm building. The city lights below flickered like stars. She didn't say much. Just looked out into the distance while hugging her knees. He asked her what was wrong. She didn't answer. Then she said it. Raith, I think we should take a break. The words hit harder than they should have. He remembered trying to laugh it off, asking if she was joking. She wasn't. I need someone I can grow with. Someone who doesn't drag me down, she said. She didn't say his class was the problem. She didn't have to. A week later she was smiling on a stream with her new party. And in that party stood a player named Rain. Tall, flashy, a rare class user. Charisma that lit up every feed he appeared on. The two of them looked perfect together. While Raith grinded quests alone, barely managing energy costs and reload timers, Airy and Rain were clearing dungeons and farming high-tier gear. No one cared about him anymore. He had become background noise. Raith paused on the forest trail. His hand hovered near the sidearm on his belt. It hadn't even been used yet, but it pulsed faintly with neural sync energy as if sensing his thoughts. Back then he blamed the class, blamed the system. But now he saw it clearly. He had made one mistake. He had trusted the wrong person with his heart. A rustle in the bushes ahead pulled him back to the present. A low growl followed. Something moved between the trees, pacing just out of sight. Raith drew his rifle with a thought. The XR-12 snapped into his hands. He dropped to one knee behind a fallen log and waited. His breath slowed. Heart steady. The rustling grew louder. A pair of glowing yellow eyes appeared through the brush. Then another set. Then 3 more. Small beasts. Low-level mobs. Nothing serious. But this wasn't about danger. It was about control. He focused his Neuro Link. The rifle locked onto the nearest target. His scope highlighted vital points, giving subtle pings in his vision. The beast stepped into view, wolf-like, fur-matted and glowing faintly with green light. He let the first shot fly. The sound was sharp but clean. The round struck the lead wolf's eye and dropped it instantly. The others scattered. Raith didn't move. He stood slowly, rifle at his side. Not even a scratch. In the past, these mobs gave him trouble. Energy consumption always forced him to retreat early. Reload delays were brutal. Every shot had to count. Now, with every bit of knowledge from his past life in his hands, they were nothing. He stepped over the fallen beast and continued down the path. Somewhere, buried beneath the layers of pain and failure, a part of him still remembered how it felt to care. To laugh with Airy. To believe he was building a future with her. But that part didn't matter anymore. It died the moment she looked at him like he was a mistake. May had tried to stay by his side after that. Sweet, quiet May, the girl who never demanded anything but always supported him from the background. He pushed her away. Not because she wasn't enough, but because he thought she deserved better than a broken, discarded player like him. Now, in this new life she might still be out there. But he wasn't the same. He couldn't be. Raith looked up at the sky. A small notification blinked faintly in the top corner of his HUD. A reminder. 59 days left. That was all the time he had before this game became reality. Before this world bled into the real one. Before everything changed again. This time he would be ready. He would rise. Alone if he had to. The forest path opened into a wide clearing marked by wooden fences and stone lanterns glowing with soft blue fire. Ahead stood the core of the Arcani's outlands. A small village built into a rising hill, with wooden towers along the walls and airships docked above on glowing platforms. Players milled about near the gates, voices rising and falling in a chorus of excitement. The starter hub. Raith walked slowly toward it, his rifle holstered across his back, sidearm resting quietly on his hip. He hadn't changed into any cosmetic skins or flashy gear. His starter jacket was plain. Boots dusty. Just another beginner blending in. At least that's how it looked. His eyes scanned everything. The layout was just like he remembered. Merchants lined the square. Quest boards stood near the fountain. Training dummies were set in rows for players to test skills. NPCs called out with scripted lines offering help or luring players into early side quests. To the left, a group of players were showing off their class abilities. A girl in a long red robe sent out fireballs in a sweeping arc, blasting a row of training dummies with a smug smile. A mage. Near her, a boy wearing sleek armor dashed forward and disappeared in a flicker, reappearing behind another dummy with a curved dagger. Assassin. Cheers went up from nearby players. Whoa, that's clean. Bro, what build is that? Probably started with a rare token. Raith kept walking, eyes forward. He passed the fountain, water spraying gently from the carved lion heads, and approached the quest board. Wooden and old-looking despite being digital, with paper scrolls that shimmered when touched. Beginner hunt. Missing supply crate. Healing herbs for the elder. Simple stuff. Low reward. Low risk. A nearby group of players chattered loudly. One of them noticed Raith standing near the board. Hey, what class are you? The player asked, nudging his friend and pointing. Raith didn't answer right away. He selected a solo hunt quest and stepped back, the scroll vanishing into his inventory. Come on, man. Let's see it, another voice said. Mage? Tamer? You look like a ranger. Raith finally spoke, calm and even. Gun mechanic. The pause that followed was familiar. Then came the laughter. No way. For real? Dude picked the worst class in the game. Bro, you're seriously going to try clearing with that? Someone nearby snorted. Enjoy the reload timer's trash tier. Raith didn't respond. He turned away from the board and made his way to the edge of the square where the outer gate stood open, leading to a beginner hunting zone. He didn't need to argue. He didn't need to explain. The ones who mocked him now would watch from the dust later. He crossed through the gate and entered the open field. Soft grass brushed against his boots as he moved into the zone marked by fluttering flags and ancient ruins half buried in earth. A few wolf-type mobs roamed the area, snarling and pawing at the ground. Raith knelt behind a ruined stone wall and drew his rifle. His Neuro Link kicked in. The XR-12 floated slightly in his hands as the scope activated, tracing arcs through the air. The weapon locked onto a target, a horned wolf pacing just beyond a low hill. Smart burst ready. The skill was simple. 3 quick shots with aim assist. The damage wasn't high unless he landed a headshot. But with neural control he didn't miss. He triggered the skill. The rifle hummed once, then snapped forward with a precise triple shot. 3 flashes of light. 3 clean impacts. The horned wolf collapsed before it could react. The system chimed. Raith watched the numbers rise. 1 kill. More experience than normal. A lot more. He opened his status window as the second wolf snarled and charged toward him. Name: Raith Valor. Class: Gun Mechanic. Level: 1. Experience: 95%. Skill: Smart Burst Mark 1. Loadout: Viper 9, XR-12 Marksman Rifle. Energy Sink: Stable. He stood and pulled his sidearm with a thought. The Viper 9 hovered just above his palm. He mentally marked the charging wolf's path, then flicked the weapon to the side. It floated past him and fired on its own, guided by his thoughts. 1 shot to the leg. The wolf stumbled. Another to the jaw. The third ended it. Level up. Raith felt the pulse through his virtual body. Energy surged through him like heat spreading through his core. He had leveled twice from just 2 kills. The bonus was working. In his past life he had spent hours grinding just to get here. Now, with every battle he was getting stronger 10 times faster. Another wolf appeared in the distance. He turned toward it, and his rifle materialized again in a burst of silver light. There was no hesitation. No delay. He fired. Another clean headshot. The sound echoed into the sky. He stood over the fallen creatures, silent. Their bodies flickered and vanished, converted into loot and XP. From behind, he heard footsteps crunching the grass. 2 players approached, weapons drawn. Both wore high-rarity cosmetic gear clearly from premium packs. One of them tilted his head. "Wait, are you soloing this zone?" Raith didn't answer. The other guy stepped forward. "You're that gun mechanic from earlier." Raith said nothing. He holstered his rifle and turned away. The 2 players exchanged a look. They didn't laugh. Not this time. Raith continued walking. The wind picked up, rustling through the grass and shaking the trees beyond the edge of the field. This was just the beginning. He hadn't even used a real skill yet. And already he was rising. The loot shimmered briefly, then disappeared into Raith's inventory. Fur, bones, low-grade energy cores. Basic materials, but useful in the early stages for crafting or barter. He pulled back into cover near a collapsed stone arch. A quiet spot, away from the main field where other players wandered. Raith opened his loadout menu with a blink. The weapons hovered before him like ghostly blueprints. Viper 9. XR 12. Grapple hook. Below them, another line flickered to life. Loadout expansion available. He tapped the icon. 2 new weapon slots unlocked, marked as unassigned. For most players, these slots remained unused until level 10 or higher. For him, they had activated early. His bonus growth wasn't just about numbers. It altered his progression curve. He could build his arsenal faster, unlock evolutions earlier, and access advanced systems far ahead of the meta. He focused on the blank slots. The interface responded immediately, pulsing softly. Design you summon. Raith exhaled through his nose. He already knew what he wanted. Slot 1, heavy revolver. Compact but devastating at close range. Custom built to bypass shields and stagger high-mobility targets. Slot 2, drone type A recon burst pod. An autonomous support drone with low firepower but high agility and scanning capabilities. The weapons formed in front of him, piecing together from lines of code and memory. The revolver gleamed with chrome plating, chambers spinning slowly. The drone floated to life like a small orb with glowing blue lines spiraling across its surface. "Neural Sync online," Raith said quietly. The revolver locked into a holster on his left thigh. The drone hovered just over his right shoulder, silent but alert. As the sync completed, a new menu appeared. Skill evolution candidate detected. Smart Burst Mark 1 showed a flickering icon beside it. A branching tree of potential upgrades extended outward, with one highlighted path glowing faintly. Upgrade option, Smart Burst Mark 2, Piercing Arc. He selected it without hesitation. The system processed the change and his rifle pulsed slightly in his hands. It had changed. Slightly longer barrel, sleeker scope, and a new rune-like symbol etched near the magazine. Ready for field test. Before he could move, a voice rang out from nearby. "Hey, you are there." Deadeye with the floating drone. Raith turned. A figure jogged toward him across the field. Tall, lean, and shirtless under a sleeveless battle jacket. Wild silver hair. Dual axes strapped across his back. A name floated above his head. Toralin. The player skidded to a stop beside Raith and squinted. "You're soloing this zone, aren't you?" Raith didn't respond. Tora grinned, unfazed. "Thought so. I've been watching you since the fountain. Gun mechanic, right? That's wild. I've never seen one that wasn't face down 10 minutes in." Raith raised an eyebrow. "Observation or insult?" "Bit of both," Tora said, then offered a hand. "Tora Lin. Beast Claw Berserker. You looked interesting, so I figured I'd tag along. No party invite needed. I'm good at killing things." Raith considered it. Beast Claw was a close-range brawler class. High speed, high crit rate, and borderline reckless. In the past, players like Tora were hit or miss. Brilliant in bursts but often too impulsive. Still, he could use someone to draw attention. Raith nodded once. "Fine. Keep up." Tora laughed. "I like you already." The 2 of them moved deeper into the zone, toward the old stone ruins near the edge of the map. Most players avoided the area, especially solo. It wasn't marked on the quest board, and the enemy scaling jumped suddenly once inside. But Raith knew what was there. A hidden encounter. The forest grew darker as they entered the ruin's shadow. Cracked pillars jutted out of the earth like broken teeth. Ivy clung to what was once a tower, long since collapsed. The air shifted. Tora stopped beside him, sniffing the air. You feel that? Raith nodded. Mini-boss. It's here. A guttural roar exploded from the ruins. The trees shook. A massive figure emerged from the mist between the stones. 10 feet tall. Hulking. Covered in bone-plated armor. 2 large tusks curled from its lower jaw. It was called a Tusker Ravager. Mini-boss. Level 5. Area Guardian. Its eyes locked onto them, glowing red. Without waiting, it charged. Tora grinned and cracked his knuckles. Finally. He rushed forward, axes drawn. The boss met him halfway, swinging a massive club down with a ground-shaking impact. Tora danced around the blow and slashed the beast's flank, sparks flying as the blade scraped bone armor. Raith stayed back. He raised his rifle. The upgraded smart burst locked onto the Tusker's exposed joints. He fired. 3 shots tore through the air, curving mid-flight into the beast's elbow. The boss staggered. The revolver appeared in his hand with a flicker. He moved forward, closed the gap, and fired at point-blank range into the boss's kneecap. The Tusker roared again, this time with pain. Tora took the opening and leapt onto its back, slamming both axes into the base of its skull. Blood sprayed. Not red. Blah. Digital. The boss reeled, then fell forward with a thunderous crash. It didn't move again. Victory text filled their vision. Mini-boss defeated. Bonus XP awarded. Rare drop acquired. Raith watched his level tick up again. Another surge of power rolled through him. Tora hooped and rolled his shoulders. That was amazing. You've got precision, I've got chaos. We make a good pair. Raith didn't reply immediately. He was still watching the revolver dissolve from his hand, sinking back into storage. He'd only used a fraction of what his class could do. He looked at Tora. Don't slow me down. Tora grinned. I don't plan to. The wind moved through the ruined trees again, quiet and cold. Far above, storm clouds were gathering. The wind cut sharp through the ruined trees as Raith and Tora stepped over the fallen body of the Tusker Ravager. Tora crouched to rummage through the glowing remains, pulling out a chunk of glowing bone and a low-level energy core. He whistled. Not bad. Worth the bruises. Raith remained standing, rifle in hand. His eyes scanned the far side of the ruins, where a path curved out of sight, deeper into the woods. Something wasn't right. Tora stood up, slinging his axes back over his shoulders. What's next? Want to hit another one? Raith didn't answer. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Light armored, moving fast. From the far path, 4 players emerged. All of them looked geared. Matching outfits. Scarves bearing the emblem of a green fong. A small guild. Their leader was a tall girl with long black hair and dual knives at her hips. Her gaze fell on Raith, then shifted to the loot that still glowed faintly at his feet. She smiled. Looks like you two got lucky. Raith stayed still. Tora folded his arms. If you're looking to congratulate us, that's sweet. Otherwise, keep walking. The girl stepped forward. You're the gun mechanic, right? She asked Raith. I saw you earlier near the fountain. Another player behind her snorted. Figured someone else killed that mini-boss for you. That class can't solo for anything. Tora's smile faded. Raith didn't move, but his voice was cold and even. You want the loot? She shrugged. Not really, but I do want the kill credit. We've got a quest chain that requires mini-boss elimination in this sector. You beat us to it. Unlucky, Tora muttered. She tilted her head. Maybe. Or maybe we just take it now. Your drops. Your kills. Your XP. It's all up for grabs. Raith's eyes narrowed slightly. They weren't just posturing. These players were flagged for open combat. PvP enabled. And they had numbers. The girl drew her knives. Raith marked her instantly. Duelist class. High-speed burst damage. Glass cannon type. The others were backup ranger, support mage, and a beast tamer whose summoned wolf growled low from the shadows. This wasn't a brawl. It was a setup. Tora cracked his knuckles. You are thinking what I'm thinking? Raith's rifle appeared in his hands with a soft pulse of light. Don't miss. The enemy duelist dashed first. She vanished from sight in a flash step, reappearing behind Raith with both blades drawn. But he had already moved. The drone above his shoulder beeped and released a flash of blue light, catching the duelist mid-lunge. She staggered, disoriented. Raith turned with precision and fired. A clean headshot would have ended her, but she dodged at the last second, the bullet grazing her shoulder instead. Tora roared past him like a storm, colliding with the ranger and the beast tamer at once. Metal clashed with teeth and arrows, but Tora didn't slow. He fought like a beast himself, unpredictable and savage. The duelist came at Raith again. Close quarters. Fast. He holstered the rifle and pulled the revolver. 2 shots fired. Both deflected by her blades. She smirked, twisting mid-air, blades ready to strike. Then the system pulsed in Raith's mind. Skill evolution detected. Neural sync peaked. Combat conditions met. Class signature engaged. New skill unlocked, ricochet lance. Raith's revolver glowed white. He fired. The bullet curved mid-air, bounced off a broken pillar, struck a stone, then launched upward and struck the duelist under the chin. She dropped instantly. Raith didn't stop moving. He spun, spotted the support mage preparing a shield spell, and marked him. The rifle returned to his grip. Smart burst activated. The evolved version fired in a spread 3 rounds that curved in a shallow arc, each locked to counter mass. The mage dropped before he could finish the chant. 2 enemies down. Tora slammed his boot into the ranger's chest and swung a finishing strike down with both axes. The beast tamer's wolf lunged for him, but the drone reacted first, launching a shock burst that knocked the creature aside. Tora turned, panting. "You good?" Raith didn't answer. He was already reloading, eyes scanning for more movement. But the fight was over. The last enemy had already hit their forced respawn. Their loot scattered across the grass like shattered glass. Silence returned to the ruins. Tora let out a long breath and dropped to sit on a piece of broken stone. That was satisfying. Raith stood over the duelist's faded body, the glow of her forced logout still lingering. She had smiled when she saw him earlier. Thought she had him figured out. Now she was back at the spawn gate. He looked down at his revolver. It still shimmered faintly with the afterglow of ricochet lance. The class wasn't broken. It was just misunderstood. And now, people would start to learn what a gun mechanic could really do. He holstered the weapon and turned back to Tora. "We move." Tora grinned. "Lead the way, Deadeye." They walked away from the battlefield, shadows at their backs. The world was noticing. They moved away from the ruins, deeper into the field where sunlight cut through the clouds and bathed the grass in gold. The trees grew thinner here, giving way to broken hills and old battlefield debris craters, shattered weapons, and rusted helmets half buried in the soil. Raith stopped near the edge of a large stone, resting one hand against it as the system chimed softly in his mind. Level up. The familiar wave of energy surged through him, warm and sharp all at once. His stats shifted, rising in the background like a tide pushing him forward. But this time the level up came with something else. A second chime. Sharper. Colder. Sync threshold exceeded. Anomaly class detected. Initiating observer protocol. Raith straightened. That wasn't a normal notification. From the space above his right shoulder, a small white light flickered into existence. It hovered silently for a moment, then expanded outward into a sleek, spherical drone. It spun once, then locked into place mid-air. Smooth silver plating. Pale blue light along its seams. No visible weapons. Then it spoke. Designation Nova. Monitoring protocol online. The voice was clear. Female. Emotionless. Tora blinked from where he was drinking water near a rock pile. What the hell is that? Raith didn't answer yet. He was staring at the drone. Nova turned toward him. You have exceeded the expected growth curve for your class. Gun mechanic was not designed for this pace of evolution. Raith raised an eyebrow. I wasn't designed for the pace of betrayal either. Here we are. There was a pause. Then Nova responded. Humor detected. Noted. Tora stood and walked over. Is it friendly? Nova's blue light blinked. I am neutral. My function is to observe and log anomaly class player data. The more you deviate from standard expectations, the more my presence is required. Raith crossed his arms. So, you're not here to help? I can assist in skill analysis, system translation, and combat telemetry. However, my purpose is to report deviations. Raith looked at his revolver. And if I keep breaking your expectations? Nova hovered closer. Then the system will escalate. For now, you are permitted to continue. Tora gave a low whistle. Creepy. I kind of like her. Raith's menu flickered open without command. A new tab appeared at the edge of his interface. Anomaly trait. Precision instinct. Passive bonus granted. The text unfolded. Your consistent headshot accuracy and kinetic kill ratio have triggered a passive evolution in your neural targeting system. When using non-automated ranged weapons, your targeting zone is reduced by 30%, increasing precision lock and damage to critical areas. Raith read the words slowly, then closed the menu. More power. More focus. And it wasn't just his skill anymore. The system itself was adapting around him. He looked at Nova. So, tell me, how many other anomaly class players are you watching? Nova's pause was just long enough to matter. 2. Raith's eyes narrowed. Names? Restricted. Tora shifted beside him, his grin fading a bit. Whoever they are, they're either monsters or idiots. No in between. Raith adjusted his rifle strap and turned back toward the horizon. Doesn't matter. I'm not here to chase anyone. I'm here to build. Nova hovered in place, quiet for a moment. Then she moved, sinking into place above his shoulder like a silent sentinel. Observation continues. They moved forward again, the sky dimming slightly as clouds gathered. The air smelled like rain and the wind picked up. Raith didn't mind. He was stronger now. And the world was starting to notice. The village gates came into view again, rising over the worn stone road like the entrance to a fortress. Familiar sounds filled the air: NPC chatter, weapon clanks from the training yard, bursts of magic from spell tests, and the occasional cheer of a completed quest. Tora stretched his arms behind his head as they passed into the square. I still can't believe you pulled that curve shot off earlier. You're like a walking cheat code. Raith stayed silent. His mind wasn't on the fight anymore. He walked a few steps ahead, his gaze scanning the open plaza. Everything was the same. Almost painfully so. The same merchant stands. The same glowing quest boards. The same low-rank players scrambling to understand their builds. But this time he wasn't one of them. Then he saw her. Near the fountain, just behind a group of healer-class players practicing barrier spells, stood a girl with pale brown hair pulled into a loose ponytail. She wore the spirit tamer robes, long, layered, and faintly glowing with green markings. 2 small elemental spirits floated beside her shoulders, one made of mist, the other crackling with tiny sparks. Meh. Raith stopped walking. She hadn't changed. Even her posture was the same, slightly slouched, cautious eyes that flicked between players with quiet curiosity, but never fully settled on anyone. Nova hovered silently above him, then dipped slightly to match his gaze. Recognition spike detected. Do you know her? Raith didn't respond. Tora followed his line of sight. That her? He asked. The girl you pushed away? Raith didn't answer. May stepped forward to help another new player with a pet summoning bug. She laughed gently, her voice barely audibles over the crowd. Tora turned his head. You going to talk to her? Raith exhaled slowly. No. Tora blinked. Why not? She's clearly waiting for you. That's the problem, Raith said. He turned and walked away, moving toward the outer path that led to the training fields. His voice stayed calm, but the weight behind it was sharp. I don't need anyone waiting on me right now. Tora watched him go for a second, then sighed and followed. Nova spoke quietly. Emotional resistance detected. High self-isolation behavior. Noted. Raith ignored her. May's presence rattled something in him. A part he wasn't ready to look at yet. Not when he was still rebuilding. Not when the world was just beginning to remember who he was. He opened his quest log to focus. 2 new tasks had unlocked based on his combat performance and location. Scout the Eastern Ridge. Defeat 10 shadow beasts in the hidden grotto. Either would do for now. He selected the second. But Nova's voice cut in before he could move. Unusual player data spike detected. Raith frowned. Where? Player terminal initializing in the upper class spawn sector. Signal intensity is above standard parameters. Username encrypted. Class, hidden tier. Raith stopped walking. Hidden tier. Only a handful of players ever reached those classifications in the previous timeline. Most came from powerful backgrounds, sponsored by elite guilds or trained in secret testing servers. Only one person he knew had entered with a hidden tier class that early. Rain. His name wasn't confirmed, but Raith could feel it. The pressure. The shift in air. It was the same weight that used to hang over him every time Rain entered a raid lobby. That cocky grin. That slow, confident drawl. The way everyone else in the room automatically became lesser the second he walked in. Raith's fingers flexed near the grip of his rifle. Tora glanced over. What's wrong? Someone just joined the game. Tora raised an eyebrow. And? Raith looked up at the sky. The clouds had thickened. The light was colder now. He started walking again. No one important, he said, but his voice had changed. Nova hovered closer. Your heart rate increased by 11%. Cortisol spike detected. Adrenaline output. Mute telemetry, Raith said. Nova fell silent. They walked out of the village and toward the hidden grotto, the path stretching ahead through misty cliffs and thin trees. Raith didn't look back. He didn't need to see May standing near the fountain again. And he didn't need confirmation that rain had arrived. He already knew. The first blood had been drawn. Now the real war was beginning. The hidden grotto wasn't marked on the main map. Most players skipped it entirely, mistaking it for a dead-end cliff zone without quests. But Raith remembered what it really was. A trap. The path narrowed as they entered. Black moss covered the rocks and the air turned damp. Strange trees with silver leaves rustled above them, and the sunlight from earlier faded fast. Nova floated lower, scanning the fog. Environmental hazards present. Shadow beast density increasing. Visibility reduced. Tora glanced around. Nice place. Real cheerful. Raith kept moving, rifle in hand. The further they walked, the quieter everything became. No birds. No wind. Just silence. Then they heard it. A low hiss. Tora froze. Left. From the shadows beneath the moss, 2 glowing eyes snapped open. Then 4 more. 6 shadow beasts crept out from the cliff sides. Their bodies were black, smoke-like, with jagged claws and flickering red veins pulsing under translucent skin. They didn't roar. They didn't scream. They just attacked. Raith moved first. He ducked under the swipe of the nearest creature and triggered Smart Burst. 3 shots punched into the beast's neck, but it didn't fall. It twisted and kept coming. Not enough, Raith muttered. Tora slammed into another one, both axes spinning. He carved through the second beast's limbs, but it reformed mid-air, lashing out again. Nova's voice cut in. These enemies have adaptive regeneration. Damage threshold required to disable permanently. Headshots ineffective unless consecutive. Raith gritted his teeth. The beasts moved faster now. 3 more joined the fray from behind. 9 total. Maybe more in the fog. He jumped back and fired the revolver into the ground. Dust exploded upward, buying a second of space. They were being swarmed. I thought this was a 2-man dungeon. Tora yelled, ducking a claw swipe. It is, Raith replied. If you're not human. He scanned the field. Movement everywhere. Too many targets. Not enough time. He needed suppression. The standard weapons weren't enough. Then the system pulsed. Warning. Combat saturation approaching fail state. Override option unlocked. Summon authorization granted. Custom weapon node 1. Raith's eyes widened. This hadn't triggered in his last life until he was level 30. He opened the summon node. Design input required. His mind raced. He needed something wide range with sustained fire, mobile support, and enough output to burn through Regan. A schematic formed in front of him. Weapon, Hydra 7 arc cannon. Type, multi-barrel rotary energy weapon. Mount, shoulder rig. Function, area denial and crowd control. Ammo, regenerative plasma coil. Cooldown, extreme. He hit confirm. The air around him shimmered. Energy surged through his core, syncing with the Neuro Link. From behind his back, mechanical arms unfolded, rising over his shoulders. A glowing cannon spun into place, humming as it locked onto targets. Tora looked over and stopped mid-swing. What the hell is that? Raith's voice was flat. Something new. He focused forward. The Hydra roared to life. Streams of arc light erupted from its barrels, spraying brilliant blue plasma across the cliffside. The shadow beasts screamed for the first time. Their bodies convulsed in the beam, ripping apart into ash and digital static. One tried to lunge through the barrage, but the plasma tore through its midsection, vaporizing it mid-leap. Tora hooped. Okay. Trash class my ass. Raith walked forward, cannon firing in wide arcs. One by one the beasts fell. No regeneration. No second chances. The Hydra stopped firing as the last creature dissolved into black mist. Silence returned. Steam hissed from the cannon's vents. The rig detached and vanished into digital smoke, returning to Raith's internal loadout. Nova spoke. Unauthorized weapon concept accepted. Evolution path confirmed. Hydra 7 arc cannon is now bound to your unique class tree. Raith didn't answer. He just breathed slowly, heart still pounding. Tora approached, grinning like a lunatic. You should have seen yourself. That thing was brutal. I think one of those monsters tried to run. Run. Raith checked his level. Up again. No surprise. Then he noticed something else. Message received. Anonymous system channel. The text was simple. I see you. Raith's fingers tightened around the rifle. Nova hovered closer. Unknown sender. Encrypted signature. Cannot trace. Don't bother, Raith said quietly. He knew who it was. The only person who would watch him rise and start to feel uneasy. Rain was awake. The fog had lifted from the hidden grotto, but the silence that followed was heavier than before. Raith sat on a stone ledge, one boot resting against the mossy wall. The air was cooler now, almost still. Not even the wind dared to move. Tora lay in the grass nearby, chewing on a sprig of something that looked like a leaf but probably wasn't. You know, he said, glancing at the sky, for a trash class beginner, you've already done more damage than half the leaderboard. Raith didn't respond. He was staring at his reflection in the HUD glass that hovered faintly in front of him. The cannon. The kill count. The system's reaction. That encrypted message. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not like this. Not this fast. He could feel the pressure building. Every time he leveled, the system adjusted. Every time he summoned a new weapon, Nova's presence grew more alert. She wasn't a guide. She was a leash. And whatever had messaged him through the encrypted channel, that wasn't random. It was a warning. He closed the HUD, letting it fade back into the digital ether. Then he stood and looked toward the cliff's edge. Far in the distance, beyond the limits of most player zones, the map blurred. Literally. The sky broke into pixelated tiers. Terrain shimmered with static. Black structures moved behind the glitch lines, too large to be animals. Too smooth to be natural. Nova, Raith said quietly. Why is the edge of the map broken? Nova hovered silently for a moment, then answered. That area is part of the legacy code. Portions of EVO's original architecture remain hidden under current maps. You are not cleared for access. Raith's gaze narrowed. Show me. I cannot. Then show me what you can. There was a pause. Then Nova flickered. Her glow pulsed once. The air around Raith shimmered. For just a second the map blinked out, replaced by something older. Older than the game. A rough wireframe of the continent. Names written in a language Raith didn't recognize. Glyphs that pulsed like heartbeat monitors. At the canter of the wireframe sat a spire. Black. Endless. Alive. Then the vision snapped shut. Static replaced it, followed by Nova's voice. Warning. Observer protocol breach. Reverting display. Raith exhaled slowly. He'd seen enough. What was that? Tora asked from behind him. Raith turned to look back. Something that wasn't meant to stay buried. Nova's tone was different this time. Slower. Almost hesitant. The system recognizes your classification has shifted. You are no longer a standard player. You are now flagged under Echo status. Raith tilted his head. Echo. A term used during pre-release for players who existed beyond the code. Players who broke the game. Yes. Raith looked down at his hand. The revolver shimmered once before dissolving into mist. I'm not trying to break the game, he said softly. Understood, Nova replied. But you are. The moment hung there. Then the clouds shifted. A pulse rippled through the world. Not visual but felt. Deep in the chest. Like something massive stirring underground. Nova spun in place, scanning the sky. Anomaly detected at map grid D70. Object is waking. Raith didn't move. Can we get there? Not yet. He nodded once. Then we keep leveling. Tora stood beside him now, dusting off his coat. You sure you don't want to rest? Maybe flirt with that spirit tamer back in town? May, right? Raith said nothing. Tora shrugged. Didn't think so. They walked away from the grotto, heading toward the rising cliffs that marked the next region. The light faded behind them, evening drawing across the simulated sky. Nova hovered silently above, her sensors still spinning. Back in the village, May stood at the fountain, scanning names on the system list. She found his. Online. Active. But no message came through. And high above the world, at the edge of a broken sky, a figure watched through flickering code. Rain had entered the game. And this time he remembered everything too. The path to Hollowpine Heights was narrow and winding, carved into the base of a cliff where white mist clung to the rocks like old ghosts. Loose gravel crunched under Raith's boots with every step. Above, jagged peaks reached for a gray sky that never seemed to clear. The starter zone had faded behind them. Fewer players roamed this area. Fewer sounds echoed in the wind. Only silence. Tora walked a few paces behind, occasionally tossing small pebbles off the cliff just to see how long they took to vanish into the fog below. You think anyone's actually fallen down there? He asked. Raith didn't answer right away. Probably. Tora smirked. Think it was a gun mechanic? Raith stopped walking. He turned slightly, his eyes calm. Tora raised his hands. Joking. Sort of. Raith kept moving. There wasn't much to say. The path ahead was steep, and his thoughts were heavier than usual. The last battle still lingered in his muscles. Not the strain but the memory of it. The heat from the Hydra cannon. The way the shadow beasts screamed as they burned. The look on Tora's face after it was over. Admiration. But that wasn't what stuck with him. It was the message. I see you. Whoever sent it hadn't needed to say more. Raith already knew. Rain was here. And somewhere out there, the world was beginning to shift. Nova hovered quietly behind him, her silver-blue glow faint in the fog. You are unusually quiet, she said. Raith kept his gaze forward. I'm thinking. About rain? Raith didn't respond. Nova adjusted her altitude, now floating beside his shoulder. Her voice remained steady but softer than usual. He was a statistical outlier in the previous timeline. Highest-rated player in over a dozen categories. If he has memory retention like you, he will also be accelerating. Raith nodded once. I know. Tora jogged up beside them again. Are we really going into the heights? He asked, stretching his arms. Heard the mobs there are nasty. Wind-type resistance. Weird physics. Everyone I know either avoids it or dies trying to solo farm it. That's why we're going, Raith said. Tora raised an eyebrow. You like pain, don't you? Raith adjusted the rifle strapped across his back. No. I like patterns. Nova chimed in. The Hollow Pine region is notorious for its difficulty curve. Unfavorable terrain, unstable footing, and aerial enemies with rapid movement patterns. Players avoid it because it's unpredictable. Exactly, Raith said. No one grinds there. Which means no one's watching. Tora gave a short laugh. So, we're hiding now? We're training. Raith stepped over a fallen log and the path opened slightly. The wind picked up, sharp and sudden, tugging at his coat. The mountains loomed closer. Nova's voice returned. New anomaly detected. Raith stopped. Define it. Not hostile. Atmospheric interference. Signal distortion in the upper sky. Raith looked up. The clouds above the peaks weren't just dark, they pulsed like breath. Shapes flickered behind them. Brief flashes of something not quite code. Not quite weather. Tora shaded his eyes. What is that? Raith narrowed his gaze. I don't know. Nova's light pulsed brighter. That region is outside the current player-accessible skybox. Visual artifacts should not appear. Then why are they? Unknown. A gust of wind blew through the ridge. Small rocks tumbled off the edge. Raith leaned into it, one hand resting on the cliff wall for balance. There was a crackle in the distance like static but real. A sound between worlds. Tora looked uneasy now. This normal for the game? No, Raith said. Nova's glow dimmed slightly. This may be an echo bleed. Raith turned to her. Explain. Echo data is code that wasn't erased properly during resets. If left unchecked, it seeps into active areas. It can affect terrain, systems, and sometimes memory. Raith's voice dropped. Mine? Nova didn't respond. That told him enough. He looked away, eyes drifting back to the sky. The clouds moved again, slowly this time, parting just enough to reveal a flicker of something metallic behind them. A structure. Then it vanished. Tora exhaled. I think we just saw a ghost. Raith kept staring. No, he said. We saw a reminder. Of what? He didn't know. But deep in his gut, something was shifting. Like the system itself had started breathing again. Like the game wasn't just a game anymore. Not even in the way it would be after the merge. Something older was waking up. And he wasn't sure if that was a good thing. He turned back to the path and started walking. Behind him, Nova said nothing. But her scanners were spinning faster than ever. The ascent into Hollow Pine Heights wasn't dramatic at first. A few sharper inclines. The occasional gust of wind. Clusters of jagged stone jutting out from mossy ledges. Standard terrain, manageable with steady footing. But then the slope changed. What was once a climb becoming a fight. The wind howled between the spires. Thin walkways of stone formed natural bridges over chasms too deep to see the bottom. Wooden planks from an abandoned outpost cracked underfoot. And all around them the mountain seemed to breathe. Not with sound but with motion. Every few minutes the terrain would shift. Subtle tremors. A sudden buckling of the earth. Gravity itself pulling just slightly to the left. Nova hovered low, her voice calm but clipped. Geographic stability at 34%. Unstable terrain markers activated. Raith knelt beside a narrow ledge and looked over the edge. A long drop into mist. No visible base. No save point. A fall here would mean a respawn and lost XP. He stood. Tora kicked a loose rock into the void and waited. Nothing. No sound of impact. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be, Raith said. Ahead, a twisted staircase of stone spiraled upward. Half of it was missing. Chunks had fallen, leaving gaps between platforms barely wide enough for a running leap. Tora cracked his knuckles. You are sure this zone's worth it? No one grinds here, Raith said. Which means the mobs are untouched. Better drops, higher XP, and no witnesses. Nova pulsed softly. Local hostile types include wind serpents, Clifford, and cream runners. All highly mobile. Effective counters include aerial tracking, kinetic suppression, or advanced movement skills. Raith raised an eyebrow. We don't have any of those. Correct. Tora blinked. That's not very encouraging. Raith stepped forward anyway. The platform shuddered as he walked across the edge of the ledge. Behind him, Tora followed, muttering quietly to himself. Halfway up the broken stairwell, the wind struck harder. A shriek echoed across the cliffs. Raith ducked low, scanning the sky. Two shapes dived out of the clouds. Long, serpentine bodies. Wings made of wind-twisted energy. They moved in spirals, impossible to predict. Wind serpents, Raith said. Nova confirmed. Agile flyers. Weak to burst fire and unstable terrain. They will attempt to knock you off the path. The first serpent struck before he finished his sentence. It slammed into the ledge beneath Raith's feet. The stone cracked. Raith leapt backward, landing on a lower platform, rifle drawn. Tora snarled and lunged forward, slashing upward with both axes as the second serpent passed overhead. He landed a clean hit, but the serpent twisted midair and returned faster than before. Raith tracked the first one with his scope. But every time he lined up the shot, the creature curved around a rock or vanished into the clouds. Smart burst wouldn't land clean. Too much movement. Too much wind interference. He needed position. He looked at the next platform just out of reach. The only way across was a leap. But mid-jump he'd be defenseless. Exposed. Unless... He reached for the grapple hook on his belt. The magnetic coil pulsed with low energy. Designed for vertical climbs and limited utility. But Raith didn't plan to use it normally. He focused. Neural sync adapting. Target lock enabled. He aimed the hook at the platform, then jumped high, fast, reckless. The grapple fired. The hook latched onto the ledge. Midair, Raith twisted his body, angled the line, and kicked downward. The motion spun him into a horizontal roll. Mid-flip he triggered the sync. The hook retracted. Raith flew forward with a burst of speed, landing in a crouch on the platform with perfect momentum. The system flared in his mind. Skill unlocked. Grapple dash. A custom gun mechanic mobility skill. Enables short-range, directional bursts using grappling tether tech. Cooldown based on terrain sync and elevation pressure. Tora stared across the gap. You could have died. Raith stood slowly. Didn't? The serpent returned, diving low. Raith raised the phantom lock pistol. Ghost trace activated. The shot hit. A spectral mark lit up on the serpent's body. It twisted to escape, but the trail remained. No matter where it moved, Raith could see it now. He adjusted his rifle. One shot. The serpent dropped. The second creature shrieked and darted away, vanishing into the clouds. Tora exhaled and crossed the jump himself with a lot less elegance. Raith checked his XP. Nearly halfway to the next level. Nova hovered closer. Custom movement skill recorded. Grapple dash now stored in your core library. This adaptation was not forecasted. Raith holstered his weapon. Then forecast harder. Nova paused. Understood. They moved upward, scaling the final cliff toward the summit where the mountain split into a wide overlook. The zone widened here, flat ground, sharp wind, and ruins of a tower struck by lightning long ago. Raith stopped at the edge. The wind carried the scent of rain. Far across the map, just beyond the clouds, the sky cracked again. Another flicker of static. And in the space beyond it, for a heartbeat, a tall figure in silver armor stood watching. Then it was gone. Raith turned away. He didn't need confirmation. Rain was moving. And so was he. The first step echoed like thunder. Boots met obsidian stone. The entire zone responded with a ripple of dark light, like code reacting to the arrival of something outside the system's rules. Rain stood at the edge of the Nexus Zone Delta, where broken islands floated over a bottomless void and storms flickered above eternal dusk. His cape billowed in slow motion, untouched by the storm winds. The armor he wore wasn't part of any cosmetic set. It wasn't crafted. It wasn't looted. It was earned. Plated in shifting silver with thin gold veins running through the joints, the armor pulsed with something more than just digital energy. It was alive with legacy code remnants from when EVO was still in closed development. He took a breath. Not because he needed it, but because he enjoyed the taste of the air here. It reminded him of the moment he first found power. A soft chime echoed across the island. System boot, complete. Connection verified. Hidden class interface Celestial Reaver, reloaded successfully. Skill pathways unlocked. World merge protocol countdown, 54 days. Tracking, anomaly class designation, Raith Valor, status, active. Rain's lips curled into a faint smile. Still alive. He stepped forward. The ground beneath him lit up with gold markings, responding to his movement. The Nexus Zone wasn't supposed to be accessible yet. Not for players under level 45. Rain was level 12. But numbers didn't matter. He understood the system. Where to walk. Where to pause. What action to take to trigger dev tools buried under new code. And now, he was inside a place that should not exist. The sky cracked overhead. Purple lightning slashed through a slow-turning storm. From the void below, something massive stirred. A voice called out, not from a player, not from the system. From the zone itself. You walk where gods once fell. Rain chuckled. Good. He extended his hand. A long blade shimmered into view, thinner than a longsword, heavier than a rapier. It glowed faintly with white light, but its edge was too dark to reflect anything. The system tried to identify it. Failed. Unknown weapon signature. Origin redacted. Function adaptive. Rain spun the weapon once in his grip and pointed it at the center of the platform. 3 red flashes appeared. Elite mobs. Shadow Knights. Programmed to guard the Nexus. They charged at once, blades raised, movements in perfect sync. Rain moved only slightly. The first knight struck and missed. Not because Rain dodged, but because the system around him bent slightly, warping the animation in his favor. He slid under the attack, raised his hand and whispered. Breakpoint. His sword ignited. A circular arc of white flames snapped outward. All 3 knights froze mid-motion. Then shattered into code. The world dimmed. Level up. Class evolution path, stable. Echo resonance, increased. Rain sheathed the blade slowly, his smile widening just enough to reveal something colder beneath it. He turned to the sky. Where are you hiding, Raith? The clouds pulsed once like something had heard him. Then he opened his party interface. Not to invite anyone. To disable it completely. No team. No alliances. He walked to the edge of the platform where another broken island hovered just out of reach. His boots pulsed with light. He jumped, flew, and landed without a sound. Another ripple spread across the zone. System notification appeared. New world event created. Nexus Scar, Phase 1 active. The map will shift in 48 hours. Unstable zones may open early. Rain dismissed the notification. He wasn't worried about the other players. He was only watching one. And the moment they met again, he wouldn't ask questions. He'd erased the gun mechanic completely. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to prove that fate doesn't offer second chances to failures. The Bruins were quiet. Not the quiet of peace, but the kind that hummed with the weight of something waiting to go wrong. May stepped carefully through the cracked archway of the verdant Echo Dungeon, a level 6 instance nestled just outside the safe zones of the mid-beginner region. The walls were covered in vines that pulsed faintly with magic. Small lights drifted through the air like pollen. The ground felt too soft under her boots. Behind her, 2 players laughed. Hey, spirit girl, one called. You sure you can keep up? May didn't respond. She was used to it. The 2 players ahead of her, Drex and Lana, had invited her into their party 10 minutes ago. Not because they respected her spirit tamer class, but because they needed a healer. May hadn't chosen the traditional healing path. Her current spirits weren't designed for support. They were unbonded summons. One of mist and silence. The other, a weak spark spirit that fizzled more often than it burned. Still, she followed them. She wanted to learn. They entered the central chamber, an open clearing beneath a shattered roof where sunlight beamed down in angled shafts. Moss covered the floor, and strange flowers glowed faintly in the corners. Drex stopped and stretched. All right. Boss room's up ahead. Spirit girl, hang back. Heal when we need it. I told you, May said quietly, my spirits aren't support types yet. I can slow enemies, distract them. Yeah, Lana cut her off. We'll let you know if we want sparkles. May looked down at her spirits. The mist elemental hovered at her side like a faded veil. The spark floated in slow, pulsing arcs. Not much. But they'd never abandoned her. They moved into the boss room. A wide stone platform surrounded by cracked statues. In the center, a humanoid figure stood motionless, covered in green vines and bark-like armor. It activated the moment they crossed the threshold. Boss triggered. Echo Warden, Level 7, Verdant Entity. The creature roared. Roots burst from the ground, striking in arcs. Drex charged in first, swinging his twin blades. Lana fired arrows from behind him. The Warden responded with brutal precision, sending vines across the room like whips, slamming both against the wall. Spirit Girl. Heal. I told you I can't. Then what the hell are you even doing here? May froze. The Warden turned toward her. Her mist spirit moved forward instinctively, weaving a screen of fog between her and the boss. The Warden hesitated, confused. But Drex was already getting up, his HP flashing red. Useless, he spat. He threw a teleport crystal at the ground. In a flash of light he was gone. Lana followed, muttering something under her breath before vanishing. They'd left her. Again. May stood alone. The Warden's attention locked onto her. It charged. She braced herself. The mist shield rippled as a massive vine slammed into it. She staggered but didn't fall. Not this time. She reached into her summon interface. Come on, she whispered. I know you're in there. The spark spirit pulsed, flickering. The air shifted. A new glow emerged, soft green light spiraling upward. Unknown spirit detected. Bond request initiated. The light formed into a shape. A small creature appeared, feline in form, with silver leaves for fur and soft golden eyes. It floated beside her like it had always been there. Name, Lunavine. Type, healing attack hybrid. Traits, empathic sync, root tether, lunar spike. Bond level, 1. Passive unlocked. Resonant bond. Damage increases when allies are abandoned or in critical danger. The system chimed. Rare spirit acquired. May didn't smile. She just stepped forward. Lunavine, she said softly. Root it. The creature's eyes flashed. Vines burst from the ground, wrapping around the Warden's legs, locking it in place. It roared, struggling. May raised her hand. Mist veil. The fog returned. The Warden swung blindly, unable to see. She took a breath. Lunar spike. Lunavine launched forward, a glowing crescent of light spinning from its body, striking the Warden's chest and leaving a deep scar of green-gold energy behind. The Warden stumbled. Its health bar dropped faster than it should have. The resonant bond was working. Every second May stood alone, her spirit's damage increased. Because she hadn't run. She hadn't left. The Warden raised one last vine. May didn't flinch. The mist shield met it, redirecting the strike into the stone wall. Then Lunavine launched again. The final hit landed between the Warden's eyes. It crumbled. Dungeon cleared. May's body sagged slightly, her breath shaking. The mist faded. Lunavine hovered beside her, brushing gently against her shoulder. She looked down at it. You're staying? The spirit blinked. It didn't speak. But it didn't leave. She walked slowly toward the exit of the dungeon. No fanfare. No praise. Just silence. But this time it didn't feel empty. Because she hadn't needed saving. She had saved herself. The wind at the summit stung the skin like blades. Steam hissed from cracks in the stone, and molten veins ran under the cliffside like glowing arteries. Charred ruins stood scattered across the wide plateau, remnants of failed raids, incomplete structures, and shattered platforms. Tora kicked a broken shield off the edge. You sure this is a good idea? No, Raith said. Ahead of them, a group of 8 players waited beneath a raid banner shaped like a phoenix claw. Most were mid-level builds, warriors, fire mages, a few archers. Their gear shimmered with store-bought polish. One of them, the so-called raid leader, stood with arms crossed, eyeing Raith like he was a bad smell. You're the gun mechanic? The man said, lifting a brow. Didn't realize we were taking side characters today. Tora snorted. You need numbers? You've got 9. That means you're short. Now you have 10. The raid leader narrowed his eyes. We need burst and healing. Not whatever that is. Raith didn't bother answering. Tora clapped a hand on his shoulder. He doesn't talk much, but he doesn't miss. The raid leader grunted, clearly unconvinced. He turned back to the group and called out formations, assigning everyone else to their roles. Raith was given no instructions, which suited him just fine. Nova's voice hovered in his ear. Environmental hazard levels rising. Central boss signature detected below platform. Recommend deployment of autonomous support systems. Raith nodded. Prep the drone grid. 3 small drones shimmered into view beside him. Circular, matte black, and silent. They hovered in a triangular formation above his shoulders. Loadout updated. Tactical recon drone, auto-spotting. Microburst cannon drone, burst fire. A shield drone, emergency barrier. The raid leader lifted his weapon and pointed toward the largest vent in the ground. Boss trigger in 3, 2, 1. He stepped forward and the platform rumbled. The ground split apart. Lava burst upward in a geyser of flame, and from it rose a creature carved of living stone and molten iron. Raid boss, Ridge Fire Titan, level 18 of volcanic core entity. Its body cracked with heat. Magma oozed from its joints. Its eyes were molten orbs that never blinked, and when it moved the world shook. The team scattered. The battle began. Spells flew. Arrows streaked. The mages dropped fire circles and the warriors rushed in. It was chaos in motion. For the first minute, everything seemed to work. Then the Titan shifted. Its core flared and a shockwave blasted out from its body. The frontliners were thrown like rag dolls. The archers stumbled. One of the mages screamed, crushed under a falling stone. "Group up," the raid leader shouted. "Healers fall back." But the healers were already down. Tora darted forward, axes spinning. He struck once, twice, but the Titan ignored him, slamming the ground with a molten fist. The cliff cracked. Raith moved. He fired the phantom lock. A marker struck the Titan's exposed joint. The drones reacted instantly. Microburst opened fire. Shield drone engaged around Tora just as the Titan's second slam came down. "Fallback positions," Raith said. Nobody listened. They were panicking. One player tried to run and slipped into a vent. Another spammed a teleport crystal, but the zone was locked. Nova's voice cut in. "Enemy adapting. Targeting system recognizes threat priority. You are now marked." Raith didn't hesitate. "Good." He activated grapple dash. In a blur, he launched across the broken field, landing behind the Titan's leg. The drones repositioned midair. He knelt, locked the XR-12 rifle in place, and triggered his new burst pattern spinal trace. The rifle fired a line of concussive rounds into the Titan's exposed back joint. The boss reeled, staggered, and the molten lines along its body dimmed. Weak point identified. The raid leader shouted something, but it was lost in the chaos. Raith didn't need permission. "Target spying," he called out, voice calm and clear. "Right flank. My drones will draw fire." Tora grinned from across the field. "You heard the man." He charged again, this time toward the left, forcing the Titan to turn. The drones circled upward and began blasting from above, pulling aggro as Raith slipped behind again. 2 more shots. Then a third. The Titan groaned, twisted, and dropped to one knee. The raid team seized the opening. A final burst of damage from all directions. The Titan fell, lava spilling from its core like blood. Raid complete. Boss defeated. Ridge Fire Titan. Rewards distributed. High-tier fire cores, molten alloy, 1x raid token. Bonus XP granted for tactical leadership override. Raith stood as the dust settled. He didn't look at the team. He didn't have to. They were staring at him. The gun mechanic. The trash pick. The player no one wanted. The one who just saved the raid. Nova spoke softly. Pattern repetition detected. Reputation gains unavoidable. Raith reloaded slowly. Let them talk. Then a new system message appeared. Linked player status update. Spirit Tamer, May, has formed bond with rare hybrid spirit, Luna Vine. Raith paused. He stared at the message for a long moment, then closed it without reacting. The cliff was quiet after the battle. Faint steam rose from the cracks where molten energy had spilled. Loot flickered around the raid team as they divided up drops and whispered about what had just happened. None of them approached Raith. Not because they didn't want to, because they didn't know how. He sat near the edge, overlooking the clouds that swirled far below Hollow Pine's peaks. The XR-12 rested against his shoulder, silent. One drone still hovered, pulsing softly like it too was catching its breath. Tora stepped over a fallen stone and sat down beside him. "You know," he said, "I think you just made a bunch of people rethink their tier lists." Raith didn't look away from the clouds. "I don't care what they think. Doesn't matter if you care. It's already happening." Nova hovered closer, her glow dimmer than usual. System updates available. Weapon node. Phantom lock has met conditions for variant sync. Raith straightened. Begin sync. The pistol shimmered into view in front of him, black alloy, silver barrel, a faint glimmer around the chamber. Lines of code flowed over its surface, reacting to the sync. Then the world blinked. The air around them shifted like gravity paused for a moment. Tora frowned. Is that normal? No, Nova said. This is not part of any known evolution path. The pistol glowed white-hot. Then, cracked. Not with sound but with digital stress. A new interface opened. Legacy protocol accessed. Initializing sync layer, shadow mark variant. Warning, unstable dimensional anchor detected. Raith narrowed his eyes. The pistol reformed longer, sleeker, the barrel now segmented with phasing lines. Its grip shimmered like oil on water. At its core, a glowing rune pulsed one Raith hadn't seen before. Not in this game. Not even in the future timeline. Nova spoke, her voice quieter than usual. This rune isn't from EVO. Raith grabbed the pistol. The second his fingers closed around it, a surge of heat ran up his arm, followed by images. Not memories. Glitches. Flashes of red lightning. A spire in the dark. A figure falling through a torn sky. He dropped the pistol. It hovered midair, floating in front of him. Then the interface cleared. Weapon evolution complete. Phantom lock, shadow mark variant. Fires tracer rounds that phase through cover. A marks enemies through stealth, terrain, or invisibility. A mark targets take increased damage from all sources. The duration 8 seconds. Cooldown moderate. New passive unlocked, dimensional sync. Your weapon signatures are now partially linked to non-EVO code fragments. Effects may vary depending on environment, system integrity, and narrative proximity. Passive is irreversible. Raith stood slowly, the pistol sinking to his side without contact. Nova hovered lower. I recommend caution. Tora watched them both, eyes darting between the glitch that had flickered across the pistol's surface and Raith's unreadable expression. What the hell did you just unlock? Raith didn't answer. Instead, he lifted the pistol and pointed it at the stone wall across the field. He fired. The shot phased through the stone like it wasn't there. A faint pulse followed. Behind the wall, a bird mob hiding in stealth shrieked and collapsed. No line of sight. No trace. But the mark had landed. Tora blinked. That's not fair. Raith turned the pistol in his hand, watching as the rune glowed and faded. Nothing about this is fair. Nova's voice came again, distant. There are pieces of this world you were never supposed to touch. Raith holstered the weapon. Then maybe I'm the right kind of wrong. He turned toward the path leading down the other side of the cliffs toward the stormy valleys below. Nova hovered behind, silent. But her sensors kept pulsing. Because the weapon wasn't done evolving. It was just beginning to remember where it came from. The cliffs behind him still smoked. Raith stood alone at the edge of a scorched ridge, his back to the defeated Ridgefire Titan, the wind tugging at his coat. The rest of the raid party had already left. They split the loot, said nothing, and vanished down the mountain trail. Even Tora had given him space. For once, Raith didn't mind the quiet. He wasn't here to be praised. He was here to improve. He turned toward the new zone, a narrow valley choked in red-tinted mist. The system called it Ashroot Hollow, a fire-corrupted biome known for quick respawns, chaotic enemy types, and heat-imbued terrain hazards. Most players skipped it. Too unpredictable. Too annoying. Which meant Raith could train in peace. He stepped onto the path and descended into the hollow. The air inside was dry and hot. Not game hot, real hot. Enough that it made his breathing shallow and sweat bead at his collar. Small fires burned along the hills. Blackened trees jutted out of the red soil like bones. And in the distance, creatures crawled, half-melted wolves with embers in their eyes, horned drakes with smoking claws. Raith crouched behind a shattered rock slab and loaded his phantom lock pistol. The shadow mark variant hummed softly, its rune pulsing with dull red light. He'd been testing it for the past hour. No glitches. No code shifts. Just clean, quiet efficiency. Mark. Shoot. Burn through. His rifle, the XR-12, hovered beside him, now drifting into alignment with his neural focus. Nova's voice came through, calm and neutral. Local enemies possess fire-based immunity. Standard piercing and kinetic damage remain effective. Elemental rounds are not required. Raith nodded once. He picked a target. A fire wolf was pacing along the far slope, low to the ground, tail twitching. Behind it, a second wandered near a scorched log. Raith activated Ghost Trace. One shot. The bullet phased through the slope, tagging both enemies in sequence. Their outlines lit up in his HUD, faint red silhouettes with critical zones marked in dim blue. They didn't see him yet. He switched to the rifle. 3 shots. All clean. The first dropped instantly. The second staggered, then tried to flee. Raith grappled, dashed to a higher ledge, gained a line of sight, and finished it with a burst to the spine. Double kill, Nova said. Efficiency rating, 92%. Raith stepped down the slope, scanning for more. He wasn't moving quickly. He wasn't sweeping zones. He was practicing. Every shot. Every cooldown. Every reload timer. He tested drone response, angles, vertical sync between grapple dash and recoil control. He let the enemies flank him on purpose just to practice fallback positioning. His health dropped once low enough to trigger a warning. He didn't heal. He adjusted his movements instead. Every fire wolf, every ember drake, each one taught him something. 2 hours passed. Then 3. The system chimed softly. Level up. Raith Valor, level 9. Free attribute points, 5. Skill mastery updated. Smart burst, rank 3. Ghost trace, rank 2. Grapple dash, rank 2. He sat against a chunk of burned stone and opened his status window. The growth was steady. Not explosive. Not legendary. But earned. He shifted his points more into agility, slightly into energy, 1 into precision. Not for damage. For timing. A small notification blinked at the edge of his HUD. You have been grinding for 3.5 hours. Would you like to rest? He closed the prompt. Nova hovered nearby, silent. Then her voice. Your consistency is uncommon. Raith didn't reply. He stood, holstered the pistol, and summoned his side drone for a cooldown run. She spoke again. You have not used the cannon since the Ridgefire Titan. Raith kept walking. It's not about power. What is it about? He paused. Then answered. Control. Nova said nothing. As Raith descended deeper into the hollow, the red mist thickened. Enemy clusters grew tighter. Ambush points became more complex. He didn't slow down. Because he wasn't training to impress anyone. He was training to win. Night settled slowly over Ashroot Hollow. The fires burning in the trees dimmed to a steady glow. The red mist turned dark and heavy, hanging in the air like ash that refused to fall. Raith stood beneath a stone arch deep within the valley. Moss clung to the ruined surface, blackened from heat, but still growing. He set his rifle down beside him and sat cross-legged on the stone floor, hands resting loosely over his knees. For the first time since re-entering this world, he allowed himself to be still. No enemies. No grinding. Just the hum of the hollow. Nova hovered above him, silent. For once she didn't speak. No telemetry reports. No analysis. No commentary. She simply watched. Raith closed his eyes. He reviewed every fight. The recoil timing of smart burst. The pull and pivot of grapple dash. The drift of ghost travel through dense terrain. He played each moment back in his mind, not as highlights, but as points to refine. Angles. Delays. Range drift under fire. Then something shifted. He didn't move. Didn't open his eyes. But the sound of the hollow changed. The distant wind stopped. The crackle of flame became muffled, like it had been pushed away behind a wall of glass. Then he heard it. A soft hum, so low it barely touched the ear but deep enough to vibrate in his chest. It wasn't part of the game. Not the new version. He remembered it. What? At the edge of a collapsing zone in his previous life. A zone no one could name. A storm where even rain had turned back. He had heard this hum before. A voice. Not in words but in weight. He opened his eyes. The HUD flickered. Just for a second. A single blink of static. And in that blink the world around him changed. The trees were gone. The hollow disappeared. He sat on black stone beneath a sky of shifting clouds. In the distance, rising higher than any structure he'd ever seen, stood the spire. Dark. Cracked. Alive. A shape moved at its base. Too far to see clearly. But it saw him. The hum grew louder. Not painful. Just absolute. Then, the vision vanished. The hollow returned. The fires crackled. The mist swirled. Nova's glow spiked, her voice suddenly active. System instability detected. Was there a spike in your interface? Raith didn't respond immediately. He stared into the flames. Then picked up his rifle, checked its chamber, and slung it across his back. I saw something. Nova hovered closer. What did you see? He stood. An old part of the game. A dream? No. He looked up at the sky, where the clouds had darkened just slightly. It was watching back. Nova's light dimmed. Should I mark this down as a system anomaly? Raith walked forward, boots crunching softly over ash. Mark it as a warning. The hollow fell into a stillness Raith didn't trust. The enemies had stopped spawning. The mist grew too quiet. Even the ambient sounds, the creaks of trees, the sizzle of fire faded to nothing. Nova hovered low beside him, scanning in wide arcs. No local mobs detected. Respawn loop disrupted. Environmental code has not updated. This is irregular. Raith kept walking. Down the slope of a burned-out gully, between crooked trees turned to blackened statues. He didn't speak. Didn't need to. He felt it. Pressure. Not from the zone. From a player. He reached a small clearing with jagged rock spires circling a collapsed dome. The kind of place used for ambushes. Or duels. He stopped. His rifle remained slung across his back. But his hand rested on the holster of the shadow-marked pistol. The air shivered. Then came the voice. You never should have come back. Raith turned. At the far side of the clearing, standing atop a cracked ridge, was Rain. Cloaked in silver-stitched black armor. A long blade strapped across his back. No team. No flare. No allies. Just him. His eyes met Raith's. Cold. Focused. Familiar. Raith said nothing. Rain stepped down slowly, his boots silent over stone. Gun mechanic, he said like it was a joke. Still trying to rewrite the meta? Raith stayed still. His body calm. His mind sharp. I don't care about the meta. Rain smiled faintly. No. You care about control. He drew his blade. It didn't hum. It didn't shine. It simply existed like a cut waiting to happen. Raith drew the pistol. The rune pulsed once. No words now. Just movement. Rain flickered forward, his form bending slightly faster than a dash, cleaner than teleport. A movement that shouldn't be possible at his level. Raith fired. The bullet phased through Rain's shoulder, no damage. A decoy. Rain appeared behind him. Blade raised. Raith dropped low and grapple dashed backward, sliding under the strike. He hit the ground in a roll, turned mid-slide and fired again. Mark. It hit. But Rain didn't slow. He launched forward, parried the second shot with the flat of his blade and kicked Raith square in the chest. Raith flew backward and hit the ridge wall hard. He coughed once, damage registering in his HUD. Nova's voice cut in. Warning. Target class exceeds predicted reaction speed. This is not a standard duel. Raith stood slowly. He wasn't panicking. Not even shaking. But he understood. This was no longer practice. Rain walked forward. Back then, he said quietly, you were background noise. I barely remembered your name. He lifted his sword again. But now you're loud. Raith holstered his pistol. Drew the rifle. He didn't speak. Didn't taunt. He fired. And kept firing 5 precise shots, each leading slightly ahead of Rain's footwork. Rain dodged 2. Blocked 1. Took the 4th to the side. The 5th grazed his neck. For the first time he paused. Raith didn't let up. Drones activated. 1 then 2 flanked from above. The 3rd moved to cover Raith's back. He crouched into firing stance. Rain narrowed his eyes. Well, he said low and even, maybe you did learn something. He pressed 2 fingers to his temple. Another time. His body dissolved in silver light. Logout sequence. Emergency trigger. Nova chimed in a second later. Player, Rain has exited the zone. Trace remains. Cooldown locks active. Raith lowered the rifle. His breathing was steady. He didn't win. But he didn't lose. And that mattered. Tora's voice crackled through the party link. Oh, Raith? You're going to want to see the sky. Raith turned. Above Ashroot Hollow the clouds had split. And through the break in the sky, something vast loomed beyond lines of code twisted into impossible shapes. A system event larger than anything Raith had ever seen. World merge timeline updated. 48 days. And written across the sky in burning light. Chapter 3, Blood and Authority. The first thing Raith noticed was the silence. The second was the lock icon flashing in the corner of his HUD. He tapped it once. Zone status, Ashroot Hollow, locked. Exit permissions revoked. Evacuation protocols disabled. Reason, logout trace detected, encrypted. Tora's voice buzzed through the party channel, low and tense. Did you just get locked in too? Raith adjusted his grip on the rifle. Yeah. Tora cursed under his breath. This isn't normal. Raith didn't respond. He was already checking the map. The zone borders glowed red. Every path out of Ash Root was sealed, caved in, smothered in system fog, or marked by event active warnings. Nova hovered silently, her light dimmed. Raith waited. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer than usual. This is not part of any standard dungeon lockout. This is an artificial quarantine. Because of rain? Raith asked. Most likely. His logout left a digital trace signature embedded in the terrain. Raith crouched near a twisted tree and scraped his fingers along the bark. The air around it glitched just slightly, like static bleeding through the texture. I've seen this before, he said quietly. Right before the Forbidden Zone collapsed in my last life. Tora landed beside him, dropping from a small ridge. Good news, he said out of breath. I found a stash of healing vials and 2 bugged-out archers who couldn't path out of a burning tree. Bad news? Tora lifted his head and pointed west. System just spawned a hunt beacon. Raith's eyes narrowed. He opened the beacon log. Target, Raith Valor, PvP threat tier B+. Reward, 15,000 EXP plus priority faction flag plus loot drop. Deployment, authorized. Participants, up to 6 players may enter as root under bounty rules. Raith stood slowly. The game wasn't just locking him in. It was inviting others to take him out. Great, Tora muttered. So now we're NPC bosses. Raith holstered his pistol, rifle now primed and pulsing. I'm not waiting for them to come to me. Nova hovered at shoulder height, her scan range expanding. 3 entries detected. First hunter has entered from the northwest slope. Second approaching from corrupted roots. Third is cloaked. Raith began walking toward higher ground, toward the blackened ridge above the hollow's burning canter. Let's see if they're worth the reward. The wind in Ash Root Hollow had changed. Raith stood with his back to a jagged ridge of obsidian stone, the molten trails below painting the valley floor in a deep red glow. The usual enemy patrols had vanished. The mist thickened. And in the canter of it all the faint beeping of an active PvP hunt beacon pulsed like a war drum. Nova's voice cut through the silence. 3 hostiles confirmed. Approaching from different vectors. No system restrictions. All are equipped for live player elimination. Raith's grip on the rifle tightened. What are they using? Nova responded immediately. Hunter 1, Class, Assault Duelist. High-speed blink mobility. Mid-tier gear. Hunter 2, Class, Terrain Sniper. Range control. Cloaking enabled. Hunter 3, Class, Heavy Shield Breaker. Close quarters. Likely bait. Raith crouched behind a thick, blackened tree. Above him, a ledge arced out into open space perfect for baiting or setting up an ambush. Tora's voice buzzed over the private channel. I'm to your east. They haven't seen me. Want me to draw one off? Raith scanned the tree line. No. We split, they'll isolate us one by one. Hold your position. Nova flickered. Faint energy signature detected. Sniper at elevation. Sector A4. Raith's eyes narrowed. Height advantage. Priority 1. He unholstered the phantom lock pistol. The shadow mark rune pulsed once. He aimed above the trees. Ghost trace. A silent burst fired upward, vanishing through 2 tree trunks and a slab of stone. 1 second. 2. The mark lit up. A silhouette shimmered high on the ridge, someone kneeling, scoped, frozen mid-aim. Mark landed, Nova confirmed. Suppressing fire, Raith said. He fired again. The sniper flinched, cloak failing for a moment. A flash of teal armor, masked face and glowing visor. Nameplate appeared. Karnas, level 14, tier B PvP contract. Raith didn't hesitate. He grapple-dashed sideways, dodging an incoming bolt of energy from the duelist now sprinting through the trees. Behind the impact, a second figure emerged. Massive, armor-plated, holding an axe too large for normal players to lift. The heavy. The ambush had begun. Raith hit the ground behind cover and tapped a neural command. Drones activated. His recon drone shot into the sky, locking onto Karnas' position and pinging it for Tora. The shield drone hovered close. The third microburst immediately unloaded suppression fire toward the incoming heavy. The enemy dual-wielder Hunter 1 lunged forward, blinking in a zigzag line through the cover. Too fast to track normally. But Raith wasn't trying to track. He was predicting. He switched to the XR-12, exhaled, and fired where the duelist would be in 2 frames. The bullet caught the attacker mid-phase. Direct hit. Armor cracked. But the duelist didn't fall. He kept coming. Nova's voice stayed calm. Enemy style, double tap forward dash. Exploitable pause on third blink. Raith nodded. Got it. He holstered the rifle and waited. The attacker blinked once. Twice. Paused just for a breath. Raith fired. The round hit center mass. The dual wielder dropped, flickering into forced respawn. First kill confirmed. He turned instantly too late. The shield breaker was already on him. The axe came down. Raith raised his arms, shield drone pulsed, catching the hit, but the force of the blow slammed him backward against a stone outcrop. Warning, Nova said. Health at 43%. Raith rolled. Switched to the pistol mid-motion and fired point blank at the heavy's foot. The shot hit. The mark appeared. He switched weapons again. Ghost Trace carried over. XR-12 snapped up. 1, 2, 3 shots. All curved upward into the marked zone on the heavy's chest. With a grunt, the enemy staggered, then collapsed. Second kill confirmed. Ash and loot scattered across the scorched grass. Raith stood slowly, chest rising and falling. Third target, he asked. Nova responded with a scan ping. Sniper retreated. Karnas no longer in line of sight. Current heading, north slope. Raith slung the rifle across his back and turned to where Tora was sprinting down the hill. You good? Tora called out, sliding to a stop. Raith gave a short nod. Sniper. Still alive. Pulled out when his team dropped. Tora cracked his neck. I'm not going to lie, that was nasty. The duelist never saw it coming. Not about style, Raith said. It's about margin. Nova chimed in. 2-minute window before next bounty wave. Beacon will attempt to relock zone. Raith opened the kill log. Both eliminations had dropped high-tier PvP loot, custom vials, cloaking tokens, and a new energy cell upgrade for his drone. But more than that, Raith was now listed as Tier A on the bounty rotation. Tora let out a low whistle. Guess we're officially on the radar now. Raith didn't answer. His eyes were on the ridge where Karnas had vanished. A sniper didn't flee unless they planned to return later. That meant Karnas wasn't just a bounty hunter. He was watching. Planning. Raith holstered his pistol and turned to the east path where the mist swirled heavier, pushing them toward the corrupted core of Ash Root. We move, he said. Nova hovered quietly beside him. But she marked Karnas' name in her long-term memory log. Target, unresolved. May landed hard. Her knees hit charred grass as the world spun around her. Heat surged up through the soles of her boots. Red mist burned in her nose. And the sky, dark, cracked with faint lines of static, did not belong to the zone she'd just entered. A soft chime in her ears told her everything. Zone warp detected. Ash Root hollow, priority quarantine active. Teleportation unauthorized. System error code 79X, ghost mark. Her breath caught. This wasn't where she was supposed to be. The dungeon she'd entered, Soothing Caverns, was hours away. Low threat, safe terrain. Perfect for spirit tamers. But something had pulled her mid-phase through a portal and dumped her here. And whatever had done it, hadn't asked permission. Lunavine floated low beside her, glowing softly in the crimson haze. The little spirit brushed gently against her arm. I'm okay, May whispered, voice steadier than she expected. She stood slowly, brushing soot from her cloak. The heat was real. The light was wrong. And the silence carried weight. But she wasn't afraid. Not like before. Not anymore. She summoned her mist spirit. A shroud of fog swirled around her, dampening the burning air and muffling her presence. She kept her steps light, moving cautiously down the slope of scorched stone. Every few feet, her system HUD blinked again. Trace signature detected. Class. Unknown. Custom node found. She paused. Looked down. There, barely visible on the edge of a broken tree root, was a faint scorch line, too precise for environmental damage. Not fire. A clean face trace. May knelt beside it. Lunavine hovered above, scanning the mark with a soundless hum. Then the data tag revealed itself. Ghost trace residue. Expired, 11 minutes ago. May's heart skipped. Only one person she knew ever used that ability. Her fingers tightened around her staff. Raith. The mist around her pulsed with her voice. She stood and turned toward the direction the trace led. There were other markers, microburns in the rock from drone thrusters, scattered trails from kinetic recoil. Someone had fought here. And won. She followed the trail, cautious but quick. Far above, on a ledge nestled beneath the canopy of a dead stonewood tree, Karnas lay prone, sniper rifle resting across his arm. He hadn't moved since the last clash. His left eye remained behind the scope, but he wasn't aiming anymore. He was thinking. The shot he missed. The movement he couldn't predict. The way Raith fought like a player 2 tiers higher but with none of the flair or arrogance the high ranks usually carried. Just precision. Just survival. Karnas wasn't like the others. He didn't chase kills. He watched patterns. And Raith had one worth watching. A new shape moved into his scope. Female. Slim-robed. 2 spirits hovered at her side. Karnas blinked once. Spirit tamer. Unarmed. No guild tag. She paused beside a broken stone slab and knelt. He zoomed in. Her hand hovered over a ghost trace burn. His eyes narrowed. She was tracking Raith. And she looked like she'd done it before. He didn't pull the trigger. Instead, he tapped a button on his scope interface. Mark target, non-hostile. Observation mode enabled. A soft chime confirmed the lock. Then, for the first time in years, Karnas spoke. Not to his team. Not to the system. To himself. I want to see where this goes. Back below, May entered a new stretch of the hollow. The terrain shifted sharper angles, volcanic craters split by glowing vines. Ash flurried sideways in the updraft. She slowed. Ahead, a figure moved through the mist. Not close, but familiar. Dark coat. Clean posture. Gun holster low. Drone spiraling above. Her throat tightened. She opened her mouth, but didn't speak. Raith didn't see her. Not yet. He moved with purpose, vanishing behind the smoke and ruined stone ahead. May stood frozen. 1,000 thoughts flickered through her mind. Should she follow? Should she wait? Should she call out? Lunavine floated closer, her golden eyes reflecting May's hesitation. May turned slightly, looking back toward the way she'd come. And then forward again. She took a step. Then another. Not fast. Not desperate. Just moving. Because Raith was still alive. And this time, she would not be left behind. Ashroot's inner ridges weren't on the map. They spiraled, half-formed and broken, sunken beneath decades of overgrown fire vine and smoke-plumed roots. Most players never reached this far. Not because it was too dangerous, because there was no reason to come here. Raith kept low, ducking under a jagged ledge where a thin crevice cut through the mountainside. Red mist trailed behind him in lazy spirals, caught in the slow wind. Nova hovered behind, scanning every surface. This terrain is not procedurally generated, she said. It predates current zone architecture. Raith paused, brushing his hand over the stone. Faint lines etched across it, old markings, code-branded glyphs in a language he didn't recognize. Not system text. Not player scrawl. They're not part of the dungeon engine? He asked. Nova hesitated. No. They're enforcement tier. Raith's eyes narrowed. Moderator code. He followed the ridge until it bent inward, revealing an archway buried in stone and ash. At first glance, it looked like another crumbled ruin. But as Raith approached, the glyphs along the arch shimmered faintly. System prompt appeared. Hidden location discovered. The Warden's Vault. This instance was used for moderator evaluation, admin trial runs, and echo data storage. Level recommendation. None. Entry not authorized. Enter vault? Raith looked back once. No mobs. No PvP hunters. No movement. He stepped forward. Enter. The screen faded. The world broke. The Warden's Vault wasn't lit. Not properly. It was dim, filtered in flickering white-blue light that came from nowhere. The air didn't move. The silence wasn't emptiness, it was control. Absolute silence, like the zone was listening. Raith took 2 steps forward. The doors sealed behind him. Lockdown protocol initiated. Nova hovered lower. This space is outside player authority. Proceeding may result in non-standard consequences. Raith drew the pistol. Has that stopped me yet? She didn't reply. He walked forward. The vault floor was smooth obsidian, covered in glowing lines of code, strings of data frozen mid-animation. To either side, walls of light flickered, displaying glitched-out status screens of players long gone. Combat logs. Death records. Moderator decisions. All frozen in time. At the far end, a black platform rose in the center of the room. Something waited there. A humanoid figure, 7 feet tall, cloaked in jagged armor that looked more algorithm than metal. No face. No eyes. Only a glowing crest where its helmet should be. Then it moved. Vault Warden. Level unknown. Neutral authority entity. The voice that followed wasn't hostile. It was procedural. You are not permitted to enter this archive. Reason. Player classification invalid. Raith didn't flinch. He holstered the pistol. I'm already here. The Warden tilted its head. Violation logged. Begin assessment protocol. It charged. Faster than expected. Raith jumped back, rifle drawn, fired twice. The shots connected but did nothing. The warden passed through the damage like it hadn't been there. He grapple dashed left, rolling behind a floating data slab and fired again, this time aiming at the glowing crest. The warden staggered. Nova's voice cut in. Crest is the processing node. Target it directly. Raith adjusted. His drone activated, launching suppression fire toward the warden's flank. He used the opening to close in, sliding beneath a sweeping blade of compressed light. Another shot. Second hit. Then the floor shifted. Lines of light erupted from beneath Raith's feet, auto-trace zones used to freeze speed hackers. They locked movement in bursts. Trap field, he muttered. He jumped out of it just in time, but not before one line clipped his foot. Movement impaired, 2.2 seconds. The warden closed the distance instantly. Its blade slashed forward. Raith activated the shield drone. Impact. The shield held barely, but his health dropped by half. He gritted his teeth, fired from the hip, and dove behind the platform. This thing wasn't built to be beaten, he said. No, Nova replied. It was built to determine who deserved power. Raith didn't argue. He switched to the Shadow Mark pistol. Fired once. Mark landed. He waited. The warden lunged. Raith spun around the side of the vault's platform, aimed at the back of the crest, and fired 2 precision bursts from the rifle. The warden stopped mid-motion. Light fractured. Analysis complete. Authority threat confirmed. Raith lowered the weapon slowly. The warden's blade faded. Its body shimmered, then collapsed into thousands of small light particles, dispersing into the air. A system prompt appeared. Vault trial passed, moderator echo access granted. Skill unlocked, combat lock protocol. Prevent opponents from using forced logout, teleport scrolls, or system-assisted evasion skills within range for 10 seconds. Warning, this skill marks you with an enforcement signature. Use may flag you as an anomaly if overused. Raith exhaled. No flashy rewards. No XP. Just control. He turned toward the exit. At the entrance, May stood. Her hand hovered over the archway glyphs, Lunavine pulsing gently beside her. She had followed his trace to this place. Watched the door seal shut behind him. Waited afraid of what it meant. Now it opened. Raith stepped through. His eyes met hers. For a long time neither of them spoke. She looked stronger than before. He looked heavier. Raith broke the silence first. You shouldn't be here. I didn't mean to be, she said softly. But you came anyway. I had to. Behind her, the hollow flickered mist curling in warning. Raith didn't look back. We move before the next wave comes. May nodded. And for the first time in a long time they walked forward together. Above the clouds, in a place where no players ever spawned and no monsters ever walked, a platform floated in silence. A hall of obsidian glass and white gold steel stretched in perfect symmetry. Data pulsed through its walls like slow rivers of light. Red banners hung along its columns embroidered with a seagull shaped like a bleeding hourglass. This was Bloodwell. A private zone. Locked. Hidden. Rolled. Inside the command chamber, 7 players stood in a circle around a glowing platform. Each wore armor that shimmered with custom textures earned, not bought. Their faces were veiled behind anonymity masks. And at the center, a display hovered with Raith's combat data. Unauthorized warden access. Combat lock protocol acquired. 3 PvP eliminations, tier B and C. Ghost trace trajectory data. A drone signature evolution. One of the masked figures spoke. A woman. Cold, clear and certain. So, the gun mechanic again. Another voice replied. A man deeper, more amused. Thought they removed that class from high-rank viability. They did, the woman said. But this one didn't get the memo. The leader of the circle stepped forward. His mask bore a single red line across the eye vertical. Silent authority. Raith Valor, he said. The platform zoomed in on Raith's movement patterns, how he shifted through the hollow, how he covered angles most players didn't, how he fired not just to kill but to control. He's building something, the leader continued. Piece by piece. Quietly. But it's spreading. What's his endgame? Someone asked. The leader didn't answer. Instead, he pointed at the floating name in the display. Contract issued. Tier A risk/independent intercept order. Target, Raith Valor. Condition, bring under Bloodwell control or eliminate. Assigned to, Karnas. The screen pulsed. Somewhere far below, Karnas stood atop a silent watchtower deep in the ash root perimeter. The wind pulled his cloak sideways, and his sniper rested against the stone ledge beside him. He hadn't moved in 10 minutes. The contract appeared in his HUD. He read it once. Didn't react. He turned back toward the valley, toward the flicker of drone light on the ridge below. Raith was moving again. And now he wasn't alone. Karnas saw her, the girl. The spirit tamer. Not a threat. Not yet. He tapped the contract message once. Marked it as pending. Then slid his sniper across his back. He wasn't done watching. Not yet. Below, Raith crouched beside a stone outcropping, scanning the terrain ahead. His HUD pulsed with mild distortion. The hollow center was close. Enemy density rising. Zone pressure increasing. May stood a few feet behind him. Quiet. Alert. She didn't speak. Didn't ask where they were going. She just watched. Raith didn't turn, but he knew she was still there. Nova hovered silently above. The next event will trigger soon, she said. Map flux approaching 80%. I know, Raith replied. Your position has drawn attention. Faction level. I know that too. May looked at the side of his face. There was no panic in his voice. No excitement. Just focus. This was who he'd become. Not the boy she remembered. Not the one who used to walk her home from the orphanage gates. This was someone else. Someone forged by the system. And even now, she didn't want to look away. The wind in Ash Root Hollow carried a low growl, like thunder trapped beneath the soil. Tora stood on a sloped ridge above a molten fissure, one boot pressed against a cracked boulder as he surveyed the land below. Raith was out there scouting the hollow's core, with May now walking quietly behind him. Tora exhaled through his nose. He liked things simpler. Just him and Raith. Two against the grind. Now, the world felt like it was watching. Behind him, a soft tone echoed. Incoming message. Direct transmission. Unknown sender. Accept. Tora narrowed his eyes. He tapped it once. The air shimmered. A projection appeared before him, sleek, hooded, armor lined with red glyphs. Faction coded. Bloodwell. The figure's voice was crisp, unhurried. You're not the one we expected to find first. Tora crossed his arms. Well, you found me. What do you want? The figure tilted its head, examining him. Raith Valor is rising quickly. But not cleanly. He's drawing attention from higher levels of the game than you realize. I figured as much. And when the server merge hits, he'll be targeted. By more than us. Tora shrugged. Let them try. Or, you could step away. Join us. We've watched your battles. You're quick, clean, adaptable. The figure flicked its hand. A new interface appeared beside it. Faction offer, Bloodwell directive. Immediate rank C clearance. Full PvP access kit. Priority raid placement. Access to protected zones. Raith Valor listed as neutralized. Tora stared at the list. The gear alone was worth 3 weeks of grind. Raid priority? Most players would sell their entire inventory for a spot on a Bloodwell team. He could accept, walk away and be safe. Level faster. Survive longer. Be known. He looked up. Why me? You're close to him, the figure said. But you're not marked. Not yet. You could step aside. Walk into a cleaner future. Tora was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Not wide. Not cocky. Just real. You're making one big mistake. The figure waited. Tora pointed to the red armor. You think he's dragging me along. Pause. But I chose this. Every fight, every raid, every time I could have left I didn't. You know why? The projection didn't respond. Tora stepped forward, lowering his voice. Because the guy you're scared of? He's not trying to break your system. He's just trying to survive inside it. He dismissed the offer prompt with a wave. Tell your handler thanks, but I like doing things the slow way. The projection blinked, then vanished. No threat. No reply. Just silence. Tora stood alone again, but his smile remained. He turned and began jogging down the ridge, back toward the path Raith had taken. Far ahead, Raith crouched low near a crumbled structure. May stayed close behind, watching his every move, not interfering, not questioning. Just watching. The path curved around a warped cliff face where molten stone pooled at the base. Raith stopped. In the distance, a faint shimmer pulsed through the hollow. A blood-red glyph hovered in the air for just a second. Nova blinked in his interface. Faction mark. Bloodwell scouting signal. Faint. Not a direct threat yet. Raith stood slowly. They're circling. Yes. Then they're waiting. Yes. He looked up at the broken sky. The wind shifted again. Then, footsteps. Tora appeared around the edge of the slope, breathing slightly heavier than usual. May turned first. Tora. Raith looked up. You're late. Had a conversation, Tora said, walking past them. With whom? Doesn't matter. He stopped beside Raith, looked toward the same blood-red shimmer still fading in the sky. I said no. Raith didn't reply. He didn't need to. He just gave Tora a nod. Tora nodded back. Behind them, May watched the quiet exchange. No drama. No explanation. Just trust. And fire under it. Elsewhere, deep inside the Bloodwell vault, Karnas stood before a crimson terminal. The recruiter who had contacted Tora watched his report play back in silence. Karnas leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Let me guess, the recruiter said. He refused. Karnas raised one brow. You already knew he would. The recruiter sighed. You really think loyalty means anything once the merge happens? No, Karnas said. But I think choice does. He turned toward the exit. The recruiter called out. You're still watching him? Karnas paused. Always. The ground trembled beneath their boots. Red light split the sky above Ash Root Hollow's core, casting shadows that moved too fast, too sharp. Ember-cracked trees burst into flame as the terrain destabilized signals of the incoming wave event. Raith crouched behind a blackened rock slab near the base of a ruined cliff, checking ammo counts and drone charge levels. Tora flanked him on the left, axe blades already glowing. Nova's voice rang in Raith's HUD. 3 hostiles inbound. Bloodwell signature confirmed. Not standard bounty hunters. These are initiates. May stood behind them, her staff glowing faintly, Lunavine hovering at her shoulder like a quiet sentry. Raith glanced at her. This isn't the time to hesitate. May didn't flinch. I'm not hesitating. He nodded once. Then everything exploded. A shockwave ripped across the clearing as the first enemy landed, a duelist-type Bloodwell enforcer, blades humming with redglyph circuitry. Tora surged forward to intercept. The second, a rune mage, materialized behind a crumbling wall, lobbing a bolt of explosive flame toward Raith's position. Raith dove to the side, slid under the blast, and fired a ghost trace round mid-roll. Mark landed. His rifle snapped up. 1, 2, 3 shots clean through cover. The rune mage staggered and dropped. May moved instinctively, calling out to Lunavine. Root tether left side. The spirit pulsed and launched thorned vines toward the third enemy, a stealth rogue, flickering near the far ridge. The vines latched to the ground around him, glowing, forcing him to detour. But not before he threw a dagger. It spun, redlined, straight at Raith. May's mist shield flared. The dagger struck it instead, detonating in a puff of smoke and static. Raith looked back at her. Just briefly. She met his eyes. You're welcome. Another flash of movement. The rogue closed the distance, now wielding a phase blade. Raith sidestepped, countered with a high kick, then grapple-dashed behind the enemy and fired the Shadow Mark pistol directly into his back. Mark. Lock. Drop. The enemy collapsed. Wave 1 cleared. Nova pulsed. Next wave in 25 seconds. Signal density increasing. May was breathing heavily. Not from panic. From pace. She adjusted her grip on her staff and looked at Raith, eyes searching. This is what you've been doing? Raith checked his ammo. Yes. Alone? He glanced at her. No. She frowned. But you never messaged. I didn't know if you were coming. The silence between them held sharp edges. Raith, she started. The sky screamed. 3 more enemies appeared in a shimmer of digital red light, 1 flying, 2 charging with reinforced spears. Raith turned. We talk later. She didn't argue. She stood beside him. And this time they fought together. May's roots tangled the flying enemy mid-dive. Raith shot the wings apart. Tora carved through the left flanker. The right enemy stabbed forward only to slam into Raith's drone shield. Raith fired point blank. May finished it with a burst of lunar energy from Levine's core. Smoke hung in the air again. The ground cracked, prepping for wave 3. Breathing heavy, May turned to Raith. I didn't come here for closure. Raith looked at her. But I'm not leaving. He lowered the rifle. For the first time in days he let his shoulders relax. Then stay close, he said. May nodded once. She stepped beside him again. And when the third wave hit the ridge, they were no longer fighting alone. They were fighting as one. The air snapped with tension. Crimson flashes bled into the sky above Ash Root Hollow's core. Warning glyphs spun in slow arcs through the mist, their meaning clear. High-risk zone breach. Bloodwell strike team entering. Target Raith Valor, active. Status. No evacuation allowed. System override authorized. Raith stood near the rim of a scorched crater, rifle lowered, drones floating quietly in standby above his shoulders. May and Tora flanked him, breathing steady, eyes locked ahead. Nova's voice pulsed into his mind. 6 enemies. Tier A coordination pattern. They're not here to test you. They're here to end the variable. May's grip tightened on her staff. Lunavine hovered lower, pulsing gold. They're deploying from high ground, Nova continued. They're herding you inward toward the collapse line. Raith looked over his shoulder. The terrain behind them shimmered with red grid distortion. A digital death trap. So, they want to push us where they control the zone, Tora muttered. Smart. Raith crouched, eyes scanning the ridges. But not smarter. He pinged 3 spots on the HUD elevation cliffs, shattered trees, loose terrain lines. His drones followed, blinking into position. We don't match their power, Raith said. So, we break their coordination. The first strike came from above. A blast of suppressive wind slammed into the crater, followed by 2 blood well shock lancers, dashing in full formation, one cutting left, one right, forming a flanking cross. Tora intercepted the right. Raith flicked a ghost trace bullet at the left. Marked. Shot. Flinched. The lancer staggered mid-charge, slipping into May's trap. Roots exploded from the crater floor, locking his legs in place. Now, she called. Raith's drone opened fire from above. The lancer's health plummeted. Eliminated. First down, Nova confirmed. But it wasn't over. The sky shimmered. A Bloodwell Spectre-class mage dropped in, cloaked, floating, launching chain spells of red lightning at May and Lunavine. Raith turned, raised the pistol. Too late. The chain hit. May dropped to one knee, stunned. Raith grapple-dashed between her and the next blast, taking the hit across his shoulder. Health, 52%. Nova pinged a sniper signature forming across the cliff. Karnas? Raith asked. No. Another. Less precise. Raith fired a warning shot, scattering the sniper's aim. May pushed herself up, voice shaking but steady. I'm okay. Lunavine unleashed a counter-burst lunar bloom, disrupting the Spectre mage's hover, knocking her into open air. Tora's axe caught her on the way down. Second kill. Then came the shield caller. Massive. Slow. Wall of glyph-powered armor. They had seconds. Tora, Raith barked. I see him. Tora sprinted, sliding under a volley of fire from behind. May. Fog. May nodded, mist swirling around the crater. Raith's HUD blinked with drone sync. Trap ready. He raised the shadow-marked pistol and fired a round into the fog. It hit nothing. Then blinked red. Lock confirmed. From within the mist, the shield caller roared. Nova announced. Mark landed. Armor cracked. Raith aimed the rifle. Clear it. The drones unleashed a full burst. The mist broke just in time to reveal the glowing target silhouette. Raith fired 3 consecutive bursts into the exposed crest of the shield caller's armor. The massive enemy fell to one knee. And Tora finished it with a spinning cleave to the neck. Third down. Suddenly. Pause. Raith turned. The remaining 3 Bloodwell operatives had frozen near the edge of the crater. One of them, a woman in black-red armor with a half-mask, raised her hand. Withdraw, she said over local voice. The others hesitated. Now. They vanished into cloaked retreat. Raith didn't follow. He let them go. Nova's voice returned, quieter this time. Strike team leader has issued retreat. Probability of regroup, 71%. Bloodwell is reassessing threat level. Tora spit into the dust. Damn right they are. May took a slow breath and knelt beside Lunavine, who flickered low on energy. They weren't bounty hunters, she said. They were soldiers. Raith holstered his weapons. They'll be back. Soon? May asked. He looked at the distorted sky. No. Not yet. They're not sure if they can win. Far above, in the Bloodwell wardroom, the masked leader stood in silence as combat footage played. Karnas entered from the shadows, arms crossed. You sent your best. The leader didn't respond. Karnas studied the footage, Raith's movement, May's precision, Tora's disruption. They don't fight like a guild. No, the leader said softly. They fight like survivors. Ashroot Hollow was quiet again. The Bloodwell strike team had vanished. The glyphs faded. The mist settled. But something was wrong. Raith stood at the center of the scorched crater, rifle slung, pistol holstered, eyes fixed on the clouds above. They weren't moving. Nova pulsed beside him, flickering in static bursts. Anomaly confirmed. This zone is no longer responding to server sync. Tora, leaning on his axe, squinted up. What's that mean? It means, Raith said slowly, something's overriding EVO. May stepped beside him. Lunavine was nestled against her shoulder, faint glow flickering like a candle in storm wind. Override from where? She asked. Nova didn't answer immediately. Then she dimmed completely. A deep tone rolled across the hollow like thunder underwater. The sky cracked. Not a storm. Not lightning. A fracture. Red light lanced down from the clouds. Not fire. Not magic. Something colder. The system screamed. Zone status. Core corruption detected. Rollback anchor triggered. Echo lock activated. Spire link stabilizing. Raith's HUD blinked wildly, text flickering too fast to read. The red beam struck the crater edge, carving a line into the earth. From it, light bled upward, not into fire but into shape. A shape Raith had seen once before. In a vision. In the spire. A figure. Cloaked in code. Wearing no face. Holding a blade made of fragmented sky. It did not speak. It did not move. But Raith felt it. Watching. Judging. Remembering. Nova returned, her voice faint and fractured. Raith, that isn't part of any clash tree. It isn't a boss. It's not even real. Tora raised his axe, uncertain. Do we fight it? Raith stepped forward slowly. No. Then what do we do? Raith didn't answer. He didn't know. The figure tilted its head barely a twitch and the red sky pulsed once. A word appeared in Raith's interface. Witness, then the sky shattered. The clouds broke open, revealing a great wall of data spiraling above the world systems, zones, fragments of memories, debug layers, and behind them all, a door. Seal. Lock. Then, silence. The vision blinked out. The sky returned. But it wasn't the same. The clouds were too still. The air too cold. And something inside Raith had changed. May spoke first, voice trembling. What was that? Raith looked at his hands. Something that's not supposed to remember us. Nova hovered close again, her tone low. The system has marked you. Raith didn't blink. It already had. Far away, inside the deepest vault of Bloodwell's command room, the leader stood before a frozen frame of Raith's image. Data streamed along the sides. Anomaly code, Raith Valor, 13. Echo presence confirmed. Spire threshold contacted. They stared at the readout in silence. Until Karnas entered. The masked leader turned. You saw it? Karnas nodded. I saw him survive it. The leader turned back to the screen. This is no longer about PvP. The sky returned to gray. The red light vanished as if it had never burned across the hollow, leaving only smoke and static mist hanging in the air. But something was different. Raith could feel it in the weight of his steps, in the delay between heartbeat and HUD update. The system wasn't broken. It was watching. Is it over? Tora asked, scanning the sky. No, Raith replied. It's just not finished yet. May stepped beside them, hand still resting near her staff. Lunavine floated silently behind her, her usual soft glow dimmed to a quiet flicker. Nova's voice crackled through Raith's calm. Residual energy levels remain elevated. Terrain synchronization is failing. I recommend we exit the hollow before a rollback or forced shutdown initiates. Raith took a slow breath, turning to lead them out. Then the ground shifted. Not an earthquake. Not an explosion. A ripple like the world sighed beneath them. A thin crack split beneath Raith's boot. Then another. Tora's eyes widened. Is that? The earth gave way. The world opened without warning. Raith shouted something he couldn't hear. May stumbled back too late. All three dropped into the dark, stone and light shattering around them like broken mirrors. Falling. Faster than gravity. Loading instance. Zone not registered, echo layer found. Stabilizing entry thread. Raith hit the ground hard. Not painful. But wrong. The surface beneath him pulsed, not stone, not code. Something between the two. A thread of golden light arced along the ground like a heartbeat. He blinked. Nova didn't respond. Nova? Nothing. Then a breath behind him. Raith. May landed nearby, knees hitting the same strange floor. She coughed once, shaking soot from her hair, and looked up. The sky wasn't sky anymore. Above them stretched an endless dome of fragmented terrain, floating shards of black stone, flickering data cubes, and golden mist rising like fog from broken rivers of code. The space was wide. Infinite. But enclosed. Like they'd been dropped into the inside of a forgotten system. Tora groaned behind them. Okay. New rule. If the ground pulses, we don't stand still. Raith stood slowly, brushing dust from his coat. His HUD was quiet, no ping, no system map. Just one small line flashing red. Zone classification, Phantom, Beta Layer Artifact. He exhaled. So we're off the grid. May looked around slowly. Where are we? Raith shook his head. Somewhere we were never supposed to be. As they moved, the terrain shifted subtly, platforms rebuilding behind them, walkways reassembling mid-step. Tora crouched beside a floating tile. This isn't game geometry. It's unstable. It's like compressed code, Raith said. Yeah. A shape floated ahead, vague, distant, moving without motion. May paused. Do you see that? Raith raised a hand to signal caution, stepping forward with care. Then, a voice. Not loud. Not booming. Just present. You fell through the wrong crack, again. The shape took form. A figure stepped through the fog. White robe. Thin build. Pale light etched into skin like tattooed circuit lines. Eyes like quiet stars. He looked directly at Raith. Welcome back, Raith Valor. The man in white robe stood motionless. Pale light traced symbols down his arms, geometric runes that shimmered and drifted across his skin like slow-moving code. His eyes were pure white, not glowing but depthless, as if staring through the world rather than into it. Tora tensed, lowering his axe into a guarded stance. Friend or freak? May said nothing. Her hand hovered near Lunavine, who had drifted close to her neck, eyes locked on the figure. Raith didn't draw his weapon. He didn't move. Who are you? The man tilted his head slightly. The motion was smooth, practiced, programmed. I am Keiga. Raith's eyes narrowed. NPC. Keiga blinked. Slowly. Not anymore. Tora stepped forward, wary. Then what are you? Keiga turned his gaze toward Raith again. A remnant. A reflection. The shadow of a system that no longer governs your version. Raith stayed quiet. He'd heard strange language before. But never like this. Keiga walked slowly, hands folded behind his back. His robe didn't shift as he moved, almost as if the world was too slow for him. You were not supposed to descend, he said softly. Not yet. But then, the spire blinked. And blinked again. Raith took a breath. You said welcome back. Yes. We've met. No, Keiga said. But I remember the thread you used to be. Tora muttered, cryptic. Awesome. Raith ignored him. What is this place? Keiga stopped beside a fractured pillar floating at the edge of the golden mist. This, he said, is the Hollow Veil Reaches. A compression shell. A beta layer artifact. A storage vault for failed mechanics, dead events, and developer notes no one finished writing. He looked up at the sky where broken lines of the old map rotated like forgotten constellations. You're standing on a concept. May stepped forward, voice low. So why is it active? Keiga smiled. Because you activated it. A pulse ran through the floor. Raith felt it in his spine like the system was responding to his presence. He narrowed his eyes. Explain. Keiga turned toward him again. You were classified by the system. Anomaly. Echo flagged. Marked during the rollback window that never fully resolved. Raith stepped closer. You're saying I triggered this? No, Keiga replied. The spire did. But it remembered you. So, the hollow veil opened its door. Tora finally snapped. Okay, stop. What is the spire? Why do you all talk about it like it's a god? Keiga didn't look at him. He looked at Raith. Tell him. Raith's jaw clenched. He remembered the vision. The door. The figure with no face. The sky screaming. He didn't understand it. But he remembered. I don't know what it is, Raith said. But it's watching. Keiga nodded like a teacher pleased with the first step. Then you're already farther than the last one. May's brow furrowed. The last what? Keiga finally looked at her. The last key. A hush fell over them. Raith broke it first. What's a key? Keiga looked distant now, eyes fading into the glow of the broken ceiling above. Somewhere beyond your version of this world is a lock. A system lock. Not code. Not firewall. A narrative lock. He turned his hand over and an image formed, a simple circle, split into 4 equal parts. One day the system will try to open it. To rewrite itself. He looked at Raith. And when it does, it won't use admin power. It will use memory. It will use you. Raith didn't look away. He didn't flinch. He just said, I didn't ask for that. No one ever does. They walked with Keiga through the golden mist, following a pathway of data-stabilized bridges that assembled under their feet. The terrain flickered between textures, Old tile sets Raith hadn't seen in years, like pieces of version updates long since removed. Tora kept scanning for enemies, but the zone was empty. Dead quiet. May watched Keiga more than she walked. Her eyes flicked across the runes on his robe, the symbols that never stopped moving. They weren't decorative. They were responsive. What do those mean? She asked. Keiga glanced down. Emotion tags. From whom? Whoever is watching. Tora snorted. You're saying the system has feelings now? Keiga paused. No. I'm saying it never lost them. They arrived at a floating platform built of white obsidian and blacklight glass, an impossible contrast that shimmered in pulses. Keiga turned and gestured to the center. This is where your thread splits. Raith looked up at the floating sky. You mean the path forward? Keiga nodded. Every key sees the shape of the lock. Some run. Some break. Some bend. He stepped back. I am here to witness which you will be. Raith looked at May and Tora. They didn't speak. He stepped forward. As his boot touched the core platform, the world shifted again. A pulse of familiar heat ran through his HUD. Text flashed. Not hostile. Not friendly. Just aware. Spire link pending. Thread registered. Raith _00 reactive. Secondary thread detected. Raith _00. Raith froze. Tora leaned in. What's it says? May didn't wait. She stepped up beside Raith, reading the text as it hovered in front of him. Her voice was soft. There's another one. Keiga smiled faintly. You are not alone. The mist rose again. Keiga stepped back. His form began to fade, lines of code unraveling gently from his limbs. This part ends here. Raith blinked. You're leaving? I was never staying, Keiga said. But I leave you with something. The platform glowed beneath Raith's feet. A system tone chimed. Passive skill acquired. Resonance thread. You may now sense terrain-based anomalies or echo signatures within your map radius. May also trigger hidden events or warnings in unstable zones. Keiga's final words drifted with the mist. When it opens, remember which version of yourself you want standing in front of it. And then he was gone. The mist swallowed the sky, and the three of them stood alone once more. The path rebuilt itself with every step. Golden tiles hovered into place beneath Raith's boots, aligning in precise arcs, then dissolving into smoke behind him. There was no sky above, only shifting cubes of light, slow-turning geometry, and strings of data looping in silence like drifting vines. May walked a few paces behind him, quiet. Tora trailed farther back, axe resting against his shoulder, glancing often over his shoulder like something unseen might be following. No one spoke. No enemies spawned. But the zone wasn't still. It watched. Raith paused at the edge of a new platform. The floor was made of fractured glass beneath it. He saw a moment. Not in the world. In him. A memory frozen. It played below the surface in silence. A circle of scorched terrain. 3 players standing over his fallen body. An error code blinking in red. Respawn disabled. True death confirmed. Tora stepped up beside him, peering down. That the end? Raith didn't answer. May came forward. She didn't need to ask what it was. She recognized the look on Raith's face. Not fear. Not sadness. Just acceptance. The platform rippled and the image vanished. They moved on. A new path forked in 3 directions. One shimmered with gray fog, shaped like a tunnel of broken wood. The second was a twisting bridge of shattered stone, lit by sparks of memory. The third was flat, cracked, with nothing on it but silence. Nova's voice returned, quiet as if muffled by the zone itself. System interface active. Warning: pathways are user-dependent. Each route correlates with a resonance signature. Advancing will expose emotional sublayers. Raith turned slightly. Tora. Tora nodded. Yeah. I'll go right. May. She stepped to the fog path. And you? She asked Raith. I take what's left. Raith's path, the empty way. His steps echoed over broken data tiles. The light dimmed. Ahead, a projection flickered. A message replayed. One he remembered. One he heard the day before everything ended. You don't belong here, Raith. We've chosen someone else. His father's voice. The family vote. The gift meant for him, given to someone else. Raith stopped walking. The projection shimmered again. His own voice this time. It doesn't matter. I'll make it without you. The path under his feet solidified, glass hardened into steel. And the zone pulsed as if validating the moment. He kept walking. May's path, the fog. She moved slowly through the tunnel, mist curling at her ankles. The fog thickened, then thinned, and from within it, a voice echoed. I just need space, May. You're clinging to something that already ended. Her breath hitched. She remembered those words. The message she received after Raith died. A voice memo. From someone she trusted. From someone who hadn't even waited a day. The fog parted and there she stood. A copy of herself. Pale. Distant. Clutching the same message in her hands. Alone. Lunavine glowed faintly at her shoulder, and the image faded. But the mist left something behind. A small, silver pendant. One she'd lost years ago. She picked it up, held it tight, and walked forward. Tora's path, the broken bridge. He didn't like walking alone. Not because he was scared. Because he remembered what it felt like. The platform formed beneath him in slow, jagged lines. A burning building rose ahead, static, coated in fractured flame. A voice called from within. A child's voice. Tora, you promised? You promised you'd be there. He stopped. Fists clenched. He stepped forward anyway. The flames didn't burn. But they whispered. He passed through the image, chest tight, eyes forward. On the other side, a simple message hovered. You made it. That's enough. He exhaled and kept moving. They regrouped at the convergence point. No one spoke right away. They just stood in silence, letting the weight of memory settle. Raith turned first. Everyone okay? Tora nodded, quiet. Yeah. May looked down at the pendant in her hand. Still here. Raith looked out at the next path. A tower loomed in the distance, now fractured, ancient, glowing with unstable glyphs that pulsed in time with something deeper than system code. May stepped beside him. That the next step? Raith nodded. Tora sighed, cracking his neck. Let's get it over with. They walked toward the tower together. And behind them, the platform they stood on disassembled itself, vanishing into golden mist. The zone had seen what it wanted. And it remembered them now. The tower rose like a broken memory. It wasn't tall, only 3 levels of spiraling, half-faded stone. But it didn't belong to any game Raith knew. Its surfaces glitched and flickered like textures from another version of EVO1 never released. At its base, the glyphs hummed. Not in red, not in system blue. But in gold. The same gold that ran beneath the hollow veil's floor. Raith stepped forward, and the door slid open without sound. Nova, back in sync, whispered across his HUD. Local anomaly stabilized. System threads recognized. This zone was never assigned a player access key. Then how did we get here? Tora asked. Raith didn't answer. He already knew. May followed close, her pendant still clenched in one hand. Lunavine floated quieter than ever. They stepped inside. The air felt still. No music. No sound effects. Just silence and the soft crunch of boots on old data floor. Then a voice. You've made it to the archive. Kega stood at the center of the hollow chamber, robe as still as the air around him. His geometric tattoos pulsed slowly one after another like a heartbeat. Raith approached. You said this place was a compression vault. Kega nodded. A boneyard. The place where unfinished code comes to rest. Not deleted. Not erased. Just forgotten. Tora stepped forward, frowning. So why is any of it still here? Kega turned toward a glowing slab behind him. A wall of frozen interface windows hovered, flashes of menus, concept art, chat logs, player ability prototypes. Because deletion is expensive, Kega said. And some developers believed they'd come back to finish what they started. He gestured to one of the windows. A class menu. Outdated. But Raith saw it instantly. His breath caught. Gun mechanic, class 04XE. Status shelved. Notes, control too precise for general use. Discarded in favor of modular range templates. May looked between Raith and the window. This is your class? Raith nodded. Not quite. It's the original form. Kega stepped closer, expression unreadable. That class was never released to public servers. Only one player ever triggered the tutorial node. Accidentally. During a closed dev test. Tora crossed his arms. Let me guess. Our guy here. Kega looked at Raith. You weren't supposed to remember it. Raith didn't blink. I didn't. Until I saw this place. The system thread in his chest pulsed. And the glyphs on the wall responded. Golden light spread outward across the floor, illuminating the chamber. New images appeared. Old raid bosses unfinished. UI overlays never published. A dungeon called Echo_Crypt 00X that no one on Blue Planet had ever run. May stepped closer to the wall. What is all this? Kaga smiled faintly. Proof that your world is built on a graveyard. He turned toward Raith again. And now you're walking across it. They moved deeper into the boneyard. Old projectors lined the walkway, each flickering with brief flashes of EVO's past. Failed economy models. Abandoned AI scripts. Class concepts that were deemed too niche, too powerful, too difficult to balance. Raith stopped in front of one. It showed a silhouette holding two drones, flanking a humanoid figure without a weapon in hand. Underneath it, class design, tactical integrator, rooted. Not for combat, for control. Nova whispered softly. Echo of gun mechanic, variant C. Deemed unplayable by most. Tora looked at Raith. So, your whole build comes from stuff they threw out? Raith nodded once. And I've been making it work anyway. May spoke next. Why was it left behind? Kaga answered without hesitation. Because power wasn't the problem. He turned his gaze to the center of the room. It was what the power meant. The system didn't fear players having strong skills. It feared players who understood the foundation, who started tracing paths beyond the HUD, who looked at a trigger and asked why it fired. Raith stepped away from the projectors. The air shimmered again. One final image appeared before him. A thread. Just a line of golden code, curling like a vine. Attached to it, a tag. Raith class 001. And beside it, dimmer. Raith class 002, not yet found. Raith stared. Who's the other one? Kaga looked away. That. I do not know. I only know they survived. Tora glanced sideways. They're out there now? Kaga nodded. Your thread is tangled with theirs. When one moves, the other shifts. May didn't speak, but Raith felt her eyes on him. The tower faded around them. The archive images dimmed. And Kaga walked toward the light pouring from the far wall. I told you this wasn't a descent. It's just a blink. He looked back. This zone is closing. The memory will remain. But the door will vanish. Raith followed. No hesitation. The others joined him. Kaga turned to Raith one last time. You will return to your leveling path. You will grow. Grind. Master your class. That is the way. Raith tilted his head. But now I know what's underneath it. Yes, Kaga said. And that is what makes you dangerous. Light consumed the room. The tower vanished. And hollow veil reaches began to collapse. Light faded. Not all at once, but like a slow breath exhaled from beneath the earth. The towers, the broken bridges, the hollow projectors, all of it dissolved into soft golden mist. Behind Raith and his team, the hollow veil reaches collapsed, layer by layer, like a book quietly closing. But one structure remained. At the far end of the fading zone, a single tower stood tall, built not from stone or glass, but from flowing script. Lines of code, wrapped in old glyphs, ran up its side in steady pulses. May stared at it, her voice low. Is that the spire? Raith shook his head. No. Nova's glow shimmered above his shoulder. Designation, glyph relay. A residual anchor points from a previous system echo. Function, memory confirmation. Tora raised an eyebrow. In English. Raith stepped forward. It remembers things, and lets the system know we saw them. The path to the tower formed beneath their feet, silver tiles rising from the golden mist, silent and stable. They walked together. The tower didn't hum, didn't glow, didn't threaten. It simply existed, a pillar of waiting. When they reached its base, Raith stepped forward. No doors, no interface, just the faint shimmer of glyphs shaped like a circle carved from 4 rotating symbols. He raised his hand, touched the center, and the system responded. Glyph confirmed, resonance thread active. Thread, Raith class 001, verified. Accessing shadow layer. Memory sequence replay, partial. The tower flared once. A vision opened, not with sound but presence. Raith's feet weren't touching the floor anymore. He stood in a blackened space, a void of unreadable coordinates. In the distance, a figure floated. Not Kaga. Not system-born. Not even clear. Just a silhouette cloaked in long, jagged armor, half fragmented. Head turned slightly as if listening to something behind them. The figure pulsed with a dim red-white thread. The system whispered. Second instance detected. Raith class 002, active. Location, unknown sector, access denied. Behavioral classification, divergent. Raith narrowed his eyes. A data thread flickered beside the silhouette. Then text formed. Name, Silas. Raith read it aloud. May heard it from outside the vision. Silas. Nova pulsed. Name unknown in current player base registry. May belong to a protected Echo user or system-flagged entity. Tora scowled. So, what's he got to do with you? Raith didn't answer. Not yet. Inside the vision, the silhouette turned. Its face was still hidden. But Raith felt it. It wasn't watching him. It was waiting. The vision closed. Raith stood still for a moment, hand still resting on the tower. Then he lowered it. The tower stopped glowing. No prompt. No reward. Just silence. May stepped forward. That name. Silas. Do you know him? Raith shook his head. But I think he knows me. Tora looked around as the last of the zone flickered, breaking apart into motes of fading gold. This place is done, yeah? Nova confirmed it. Collapse sequence complete. All exit threads unlocked. Return protocol engaged. May looked up at the empty sky. What happens to all this? Raith turned, starting back toward the bridge. It disappears. He paused. Just like the version it came from. As the three of them crossed the final path out of Hollow Vale reaches, the world began to fade behind them. No fanfare. No system alert. Just a silent return to the world that was still pretending everything was normal. But as Raith passed through the last glyph gate, he whispered one word. Silas. And something in the code remembered it. They respawned in silence. Ash Root Hollow greeted them with wind in the trees and a soft orange sky settling into dusk. The world looked normal again. Safe even. No golden mist. No broken platforms. No echo threads. Just roots, stone, and the familiar hum of EVO's system loop quietly sinking in the background. Raith stepped forward first, his boots landing in soft grass that felt almost strange after so much time in the reaches. May followed, her pendant now pulsing with a faint golden light, a remnant of her time in the Phantom Zone. Tora stood still. He looked down at his axe, the same weapon he'd been holding since level 7. It was chipped. Not because it was old, but because he hadn't replaced it. He could have. But he hadn't. Nova chimed softly in Raith's HUD. All system parameters stabilized. Thread memory retained. Passive upgrade active. You are back within EVO's primary instance. Raith checked his HUD, then looked around. Seems clean. May knelt beside Luna Vine, who hovered lower than usual, still recharging after the echo drain. Raith glanced back. Tora hadn't moved. Raith walked over. Quiet. You good? Tora looked up slowly. His eyes were steady, but his shoulders were tense. I don't know. Raith didn't push. He waited. Tora exhaled hard, grounding the axe tip in the dirt. I was fine when it was mobs. Fine when we were grinding dungeons. Even when Bloodwell showed up, I figured, hey, stay sharp, back Raith up, do your thing. Raith nodded once. And now? Tora looked out at the horizon. I watched you touch a tower that wasn't supposed to exist. Saw a system echo call you by name. You've got threads running through the world's spine, Raith. He tightened his grip on the axe. I'm still swinging a blade I looted from a hollowed boar. May stepped forward slowly, saying nothing yet but listening. Tora turned to Raith again. I'm not weak. I know I'm not. But I'm not like you. I can't hack a system with my soul or whatever it is you're doing. He laughed once. Drat. I guess I'm just trying to figure out if I'm part of this because I matter, or because I was there when it started. Raith was quiet. Then. You're here because you chose to be. Tora raised a brow. That simple? No, Raith said. But it's enough. Tora didn't speak. So Raith continued. When I died last time, no one came after me. No one looked. I don't think I even had a team when I went down. He looked Tora in the eyes. But this time? I woke up, and you were the first person I saw. Tora blinked. I don't need you to be a system glitch, Raith said. I need you to be the guy who doesn't flinch when a map resets under his feet. Tora stared at him. Then slowly grinned. Damn man. Say stuff like that earlier. I might have cried in the cool zone. Raith smirked. May stepped forward, smiling gently. You're both stubborn. Tora raised his hand in mock salute. Good. Stubborn keeps us alive. They made camp that night near the edge of Ash Root Hollow. Real terrain, real fire, real rest. May dozed near the flames, Lunavine curled into her chest like a soft pulse of light. Raith cleaned his rifle slowly, checking each part with care. Tora sat beside him. He wasn't tense anymore. Still thinking. But more grounded now. He broke the silence once more. So, Raith _class 002. Silas. Raith didn't look up. Yeah. You think he's like you? Raith paused. No. I think he's worse. Tora raised an eyebrow. Worse like stronger? Worse like untethered. Raith snapped the rifle core back into place. I don't know when we'll meet. But when we do, it won't be by accident. Tora leaned back on one elbow, looking up at the stars blinking through the canopy. Guess we'd better level up then? Raith nodded. Yeah. And for the first time in what felt like a long time, the world around them didn't glitch, didn't bend, didn't whisper. Just was. And in the quiet, they all understood. The game wasn't ending. It was just beginning. 2 days passed. The world had stabilized. Raith, May, and Tora had returned to normal terrain, resumed party-queued content, and kept low profiles. No strange messages. No echo warnings. No golden glyphs. Just dungeons. Bosses. EVO as it was meant to be. But even so, something in Raith was quieter now. More precise. The dungeon queue popped just after sunset. Solo instance, Silver Gun Refinery, level 17 to 22. Objective, clear all sectors. Time trial. Precision-based mechanics. Optional elite boss trigger. Raith accepted. A burst of light took him to the entrance of the abandoned refinery, a maze of metal corridors, conveyor belts, vertical shafts, and flickering light. Nova came online instantly. System stable. All parameters green. This instance was designed to train ranged users in timing, spacing, and environmental maneuvering. Good, Raith said, unslinging his rifle. I need the reps. He moved through the corridors quickly, targets popping in and out of cover, floor panels shifting, overhead fans triggering pushback wind. He didn't miss a single shot. His drones worked flawlessly, flanking corners, suppressing doors, catching narrow angles. Shadow mark bullets created perfect combos. By the time he reached Sector 4, Nova's tone had changed slightly. Performance exceeds expected range. Reaction time, 0.17 seconds above predicted peak. Raith wiped his brow with the back of his glove. Keep monitoring. Back at camp, May checked her interface for the 4th time. Still no ping. Still no logout. Still no update. Lunavine hovered silently nearby. May leaned back against a tree and stared up at the digital stars. She was still in Raith's party list, just not in the same instance. Out of habit, she clicked his party audio preview just to check his status. Then froze. The feed opened. But Raith wasn't speaking to her. He was talking to the past. Inside the refinery, something flickered. A static pulse ran down the corridor ahead. Raith's HUD warped slightly. Nova's voice distorted. Warning. Thread resonance spike. Not within this dungeon's parameters. Raith stopped. Then, the walls faded. He remained standing in the corridor. But in his eyes, it wasn't the refinery anymore. It was a battlefield. Smoldering dirt. Steel barricades. Blood in the cracks of the ground. His level read, 49. His health, 12%. His voice, soft, choked, whispered out loud. Don't come back for me. The overlay showed him holding a rifle, not his current one, but a long, scarred one with a shattered scope. His hands were burned. Glitched messages flickered in the corner. Team wipe in 012. DPS error, offline link. Another voice replied. Female. Distant. We're pulling you out, Raith. Just hang on. His voice louder now. I said no. Outside the vision, Raith stood still, frozen in the dungeon corridor, mouth moving, breath catching. Let me finish it here. May sat up straight back at camp, eyes wide. She could hear it. All of it. She said nothing. Did nothing. Just listened. Raith kept speaking. I knew they'd betray me. I knew the vote was rigged. I knew I was disposable the second he logged in with the title. A long pause. Then. But I went anyway. I just wanted to prove it didn't matter. The image flickered. A sword plunged into his back in the memory. The spire appeared. The thread pulled. And the overlay collapsed. Raith snapped back to reality. He stood in the refinery again. Nova rebooted instantly. System anomaly purged. Memory echo terminated. Data synced. Raith exhaled slowly, sweat clinging to his collar. The hallway ahead opened. No reward. No explanation. Just silence. At camp, May closed the feed window. Her hands were still shaking slightly. She didn't cry. Didn't speak. She just leaned forward, resting her chin on her arms. And for the first time, she didn't feel left behind. She just felt close to the person Raith used to be. And maybe still was. The tremor hit just after dawn. Raith was still checking weapon mods at the edge of camp when the ground beneath his boots gave a sudden, sharp jolt like the zone's heartbeat skipped. Nova's voice flared. Seismic ping detected. Local terrain integrity compromised. Source, not natural. Raith stood instantly, eyes locked on the horizon. Tora slid down from a ridge above, eyes wide. Was that another Hollow Veil breach? No, Raith said. He looked east. Toward Ember Hollow, a nearby subzone where low-tier PvP challenges normally took place. But today, the air above it was cracked. Literally cracked. A red-black fissure hovered 5 meters off the ground, pulsing like a heartbeat, throwing off sparks of corrupted code in every direction. May stepped forward, her pendant flickering. I've never seen that before. Nova chimed again. Data signature registered. PvP logs cross-linked. Construct forming. Raith's hands tightened on his rifle. A construct. A memory beast, Nova confirmed. Made from archived player duels. It's forming now. No faction tied. No reward listed. It is not part of this server's current build. Tora raised his axe. So, someone triggered this? Raith nodded once. It's not us. He looked at May. Her face was pale. Then it's the other one, she whispered. Raith turned to the east. Silas. They arrived at the edge of Ember Hollow within minutes. The zone had emptied. No mobs. No players. No system markers. Just the broken arena, a wide flat stone field usually reserved for ranked sparring. Today it was fractured. At its center, the fissure glowed brighter now. And from it, something rose. Not a monster. Not a machine. A player silhouette wearing jagged red armor, movements sharp, glitchy, aggressive. No nameplate. No title. But it held twin daggers and its stance was trained. Battle ready. May stepped back stunned. It feels real. Tora looked at the construct, then back at Raith. You see it? Raith activated his rifle scope. The system whispered back. Construct ID, Echo Origin, PvP Archive, Sector, Unknown. Behavioral Model, Silas _1.02 Raith's heart slowed. This is a recording. No, Nova corrected. It's a test. The construct moved. It didn't scream. Didn't aggro. It just attacked. Fast. Raith barely dodged the first strike. The daggers cut a streak of red across the stone behind him. May raised her barrier, instinctively shattering under the second slash. Tora countered with a shoulder rush hit but staggered. It's reading us, he yelled. It's adjusting to our positioning. Raith slid across the terrain, firing a shadow mark round into the creature's shoulder. Mark landed. He followed with 3 shots, tight grouping. The construct blinked. Then mimicked the combo perfectly. Same mark. Same aim. Nova blared. It's copying your style. Every strike improves its model. Raith grits his teeth. So, we don't give it a pattern. Correct. They split formation. Tora circled left, drawing attention with rapid slashes. May moved wide, pushing illusionary spirit projections into the field, causing the construct's pathfinding to jitter. Raith dropped low, changed elevation, and activated both drones for asynchronous burst fire. The creature spun midair, absorbed 1 blast, but missed the second, staggering for just a second. Raith jump. Grapple dash. Fired down. Direct hit to the crest. The construct flared, glitched. But it didn't die. It adapted. The crest split into 2 copies, spreading across both shoulders. May gasped. It's fragmenting. Nova confirmed it. Progression style, multi-phase echo. You've hit phase 2. Raith cursed under his breath. This isn't a beast. It's a blueprint. The fight escalated. The construct began switching weapons mid-combo, blade to spear, spear to throwing chain, copying dozens of fighting styles in real time. Tora was bleeding health. Raith's drones overloaded. May's spells were starting to fail against the system-stacked defenses. And then Raith made a choice. He dropped his rifle. Switched to his secondary, the Phantom Lock pistol. Short range. Close timing. Unforgiving. He walked straight toward the construct. Nova. Yes. Pull the recorded movement logs from my final duel. First life. Pause. Confirmed. May's eyes widened. You're giving it a deathmatch pattern? Raith narrowed his eyes. No. I'm giving it closure. He moved cleanly. Every step mirrored the way he died in the previous timeline. Same posture. Same stances. But this time, every time the construct copied. Raith countered. Shot for slash. Step for step. He interrupted the mimicry before it completed. May watched in stunned silence. He wasn't reacting anymore. He was leading. Tora muttered, "Okay, that's cheating." Raith stepped inside the final spin, ducked low, fired one bullet point blank into the construct's chest. Mark. Drone overcharged. Crest shattered. The construct flickered. Then collapsed, data shattering into fragments. The red fissure above the zone cracked once more. And then sealed. Just like that. No loot. No reward. Only a single system ping. Silas _1.02, replay complete. Pattern recognized. Thread sync suspended. Raith stood in silence. Nova spoke last. Silas has entered the board. The wind in Ember Hollow felt normal again. Real. Tangible. No golden threads, no glitching sky, no rogue construct slicing the air with outdated combat patterns. Just trees swaying. System ambience ticking quietly in the background. A soft, steady heartbeat. EVO had gone still. Raith stood at the edge of the arena, rifle across his back, hut calm. No pings. No flags. No echo traces. Nova hovered quietly beside him. All anomalies cleared. Local zone parameters restored. Construct data has been archived. Raith didn't respond. He looked down at the faint burn mark where the construct had collapsed. The word Silas still floated in the back of his mind. Not spoken, but present. Back at camp, May was mending her gloves beside the fire. Tora sat nearby, flipping a dagger between his fingers, eyes up at the virtual sky. Neither of them said much. The last 2 days had been quiet. Safe zones. Fast hunts. A short dungeon for credits. Nothing unusual. But nothing felt the same. May looked over at Wraith's name in the party list. Still online. Still active. Still Raith. She whispered softly, "He's not pushing ahead anymore." Tora flicked the dagger into a stump. "He's calculating." Raith opened his system logs that night. Just to check. No surprise alerts. No new anomalies. But one line stood out new. It hadn't been there before. Player class update. Category, key class. Classification, threaded, echo-linked, unindexed. Public visibility, hidden. Level tracking, manual only. He blinked. Nova spoke softly. "The system has reclassified you." "What does it mean?" "It means," she said, "you're no longer just a gun mechanic." Raith stared at the interface for a long time. Then closed it. No fanfare. No upgrade. Just awareness. In the morning, Raith walked alone to the forge near Hollow's outpost. No missions. No plot. Just gear. He laid out his current weapon, stripped the casing, cleaned the barrel, checked the drone link wiring. The forge master looked at him from across the bench. "Not many upgrade white bards anymore," the old man said. "Most kids just buy blue off the market." Raith didn't answer. He just polished the bolt assembly. The man nodded. "You're not most." Raith reassembled the rifle, tested the grip. Felt right. Clean. Grounded. Earned. That afternoon he rejoined May and Tora on the southern ridge. They were already waiting, packs full, weapons ready, quest boards pinged. No conversation was needed. Raith looked at the zone menu. New dungeons were available. Elite field bosses unlocked. Side paths opened. He picked one. "Let's move." Tora grinned. "Finally." May gave a quiet smile. "Back to grinding." Raith nodded once. And as they headed down the trail, Nova pulsed one final whisper in Raith's HUD. "Silas has not moved." Raith kept walking. "Good," he said. "Then we'll move first." Rust Shard range wasn't for most players. It didn't reward loot. It didn't drop rare items. There were no bosses, no title chances, no bonus event triggers. It gave one thing. Mastery. A long, narrow zone carved into the cracked edge of the steel grass wastes. Rust Shard was a self-contained arena built for precision-based leveling. No healing shrines. No save points. The moment you entered, the countdown started. 10 minutes. 55 moving targets. One mistake ends the run. Raith stood just outside the range gate, wind pulling gently at his coat. His rifle was freshly polished, grip smooth. Both drones hovered in low orbit beside him, silent, synced, waiting. May and Tora stayed behind at the camp's edge. "You sure about this one?" Tora asked. "No mobs. No loot. Just pain." Raith adjusted the scope. "I'm not here for loot." He stepped forward. The gate hissed open. Zone entry confirmed, Rust Shard range. Level modifier, unlocked. Class advantage, none. System note, Gun mechanic success rate, 11%. Inside, the terrain was built like a firing course. Platforms at varying heights, narrow corridors of crumbling metal, rotating target plates shaped like enemy silhouettes, some fast, some fake, some designed to throw timing off completely. A bell rang in the distance. The run began. Timer, 10 o'clock. Raith didn't flinch. He moved forward, slow and clean, stepping over the threshold onto the first active lane. 3 targets spun into view. Left, right, high. He pivoted, crouched, fired. Click, bang, bang. 3 shots. 3 hits. No delay. Nova chimed quietly. Opening sequence clear. Accuracy, 98.1%. Raith kept moving. In the second lane, the path narrowed, ceiling low, light dimmed. Target shapes became more complex. Hostile silhouettes were mixed with civilian outlines and movement sped up. This was where most failed. Hesitation. Overcorrection. Misses. Raith stopped halfway through the corridor, let his drones drift left and right, and gave a single command. Drift aligns. Auto-ping. Passive sync. Nova confirmed it. Sync engaged. Running dual detection pattern. He closed one eye. The moment a red shape appeared. Bang. His left drone pinged the upper rail, marked the shadow. Bang. The target wobbled but didn't fall. Raith adjusted pressure, tilted barrel 2 degrees, fired again. Bang. Confirmed. Nova pulsed. Correction acknowledged. Sync drift recalibrated. Remaining 37 targets. Back at camp, May watched from her interface. The rust shard range didn't allow live view, but it reported a heartbeat log. Ping by ping. Every shot Raith fired, every second he waited between decisions, scrolled like a steady rhythm. She leaned against the camp wall, eyes closed, just listening. Tora paced nearby. He's already cleared 30%. May smiled faintly. He's not clearing. He's studying. Sector 4. The floor rotated now. Moving platforms. Speed-modified lanes. And the targets began firing back small energy bursts coded to punish positioning errors. Raith crouched low behind a spinning plate. One drone moved high, the other mirrored left. He did not rush. The room blinked red. 4 targets appeared in a curve. 1 low, 2 middle, 1 hidden behind a dummy shield. He fired left. Fired middle. Jump. Grapple dash across the platform, landed hard and shot the 3rd target mid-roll. The 4th emerged. He didn't shoot. He waited. The drone pinged. Red shimmer. Wrong target. He raised the rifle. Fired into the support beam instead. The false target collapsed. Nova pulsed. Precision score increasing. Current, 93.2%. Raith whispered, keep it above 90. With 3 minutes left, the final sector opened. 5 elevated rails. 7 rotating targets. 2 dummy systems that reversed input feedback. The test was brutal. The slightest error in input, the wrong angle, wrong anticipation, premature reload would desync the system. Most players failed here, panicked, or tried to brute force through it. Raith didn't. He walked calmly to the center platform, drew his pistol, not the rifle, and let the drones hover just behind his line of sight. Then he exhaled. 1 long breath. The sequence began. Target 1, high sweep, right side, fast movement. Raith pivoted and fired once. Target 2, dummy plate doesn't count. He ignored it. Target 3, center rail, reverse feedback active. He moved 1 beat behind instinct. Fired once. Drone pinged. Left side, decoy. He sent drone suppressive fire, not to destroy, but to bait the timing. The real target revealed mid-glitch. He flicked his wrist and fired backward without looking. Bam. Nova whispered. Sequence finalizing. 2 remaining. The rails shifted. The targets began moving together, 2 silhouettes crossing at perfect angles, just 1 frame apart. Most failed here because they aimed between them. Raith aimed through them. He tracked their arc, not their shape. Let his breath fall with the platform's pulse. Bang, bang. Silence. No alarm. No music. Just a soft tone. Rust shard range cleared. Final time, 0:14 remaining. Precision rating, 94.8%. Rank, A, top 9%. Reward, manual skill unlock opportunity available. Nova spoke quietly. You've passed. Raith stood in the center of the range, pistol still warm in his hand. Then he holstered it and walked out without looking back. Back at camp, the moment the zone cleared, May's interface pinged. Raith's log updated. Target clear, confirmed. Efficiency logged. Challenge record. Uploaded to silent board access only. She smiled faintly. He did it? Tora grinned. Of course he did. May stood. But it's not about the pass. Tora raised an eyebrow. No. She looked toward the horizon, where Raith was walking back with the rifle slung across his back. It's about what comes next. The system message appeared as soon as Raith exited Rust Shard range. Skill unlock opportunity, threaded class type detected. Gun mechanic class tier, custom. Eligibility confirmed. Manual tech integration available. Nova flickered softly over his HUD. This opportunity was not planned. Threaded class skill activations must be installed manually. Raith adjusted the rifle strap across his shoulder. Good, he said. He opened the skill terminal, and the message unfolded like an unfolding gear mechanism, each layer clicking into place. Skill name, threaded overclock. Type, gun mechanic class tech. Trigger, manual only, cooldown, 1 hour. Effect, synchronizes next shot with drone position, terrain line of sight and player movement momentum. Deals amplified burst damage based on precision, alignment, and elevation. Asterisk note, this skill cannot be automated or queued. Must be used deliberately. Raith read it once, then twice. Nova whispered. It's not a damage boost. It's a timing skill. It rewards coordination, not power. Raith smiled faintly. So, if I misfire, it misses everything. Back at the ridge above Hollow's outpost, Tora and May stood beside the quest board, waiting for Raith to return. Still no loot? Tora asked. May shook her head. Not from Rust Shard. Just records and precision ranks. Tora laughed. What a Raith place to train. Then May blinked. Her interface pinged. Update. Raith has entered solo instance, Tier 3 boss arena. Zone, Dust Gray's Cavern, threat level, high. Tora froze mid-step. Did he just go solo a cavern boss? May stared at the message. I think he's about to test something. Dust Gray's Cavern was pitch black. A hunting ground for the WR a subsurface raid creature known for its tunneling, sweeping charge attacks and wide-angle tailspin. Most cleared it with 5 players. Raith entered alone. He walked in slowly, footsteps echoing. No backup. No strategy runs. Just him, the drone sync line pulsing in the corner of his HUD, and one active message waiting in gold. Threaded overclock. Ready? The cavern pulsed once. The boss roared in the distance. Nova spoke. This isn't how you're supposed to test skills. Raith smirked. It is if I trust the system. He knelt behind a jagged rock, checked the rifle chamber, and loaded a round with his own tag inscribed into the barrel. Raith. First live. Then he waited. The WR meter burst from the wall in a rush of rubble and steam, its segmented body lined with armored plates that pulsed with dull crimson light. Its maw opened wide, eyes glowing like heat vents. The ground cracked. Raith moved fast. Drone 1 shot upward, banked left. Drone 2 dropped behind the pillar. Raith dashed right, leaping onto a lower ledge, rotating mid-air as the beast surged forward. The drones marked its movement. Raith didn't shoot. He didn't react. He calculated. The WR meter shifted into its tailspin. A move that usually wipes half a party if mistimed. Nova pulsed. Now. Raith slid into position, just beneath the upward arc of the creature's tail. His drones locked angle from opposite ends, forming a clean, sharp vector line from east to west across the WRM's exposed undercarriage. Raith dropped one knee. Pulled the trigger. Threaded overclock activated. The shot fired. Time didn't slow. But the system shifted. Raith's bullet ignited mid-air, pulling the sync line from both drones and the elevation reading of his drop momentum. The terrain pulse snapped forward. A glowing arc lit the chamber in gold as the bullet ricocheted, not once but twice, striking 3 points. 1. The drone tether line. 2. The WRM's open joint plate. 3. The cavern's rear column, creating a collapse echo. The combination triggered a system burst. Sync confirmed, shot integrity. 100%. Critical chain executed, suppression threshold breached. The WR meter crashed to the ground, body locked in mid-turn. Its roar broke apart into data fragments. Raith stepped forward, breathing slow. Nova whispered. You rewrote the mechanic. No, he said, standing up. I read it. Back at the ridge, May's eyes widened. Raith's log updated again. Dust Gray's Cavern, cleared. Party size, 1. Time, 3:24. Tora stared. 3 minutes? May exhaled. He used it. Used what? The skill. His first tech. Tora ran a hand through his hair. This guy's going to solo the patch. Raith exited the cavern and returned to the outpost. He didn't say anything as he walked back into camp, just nodded to Tora and May. May walked over slowly. Was it smooth? Raith tapped the rifle. I'll get better. She tilted her head. That was your best. Then it's not enough. Tora laughed. There he is. That night, as the fire crackled and the world stayed quiet, Raith sat apart with the rifle across his knees. He reloaded the same chambered round, the one that bore his name. Nova hovered beside him. You're on the board. Raith blinked. What board? Challenge efficiency, Nova said. Not global. Not famous. Just for those the system watches. Raith didn't react. He slid the bullet into place. I'm not chasing numbers. No, Nova agreed. But numbers are starting to chase you. The sun dipped low over the Ashridge verge, casting long shadows across the cracked terrain. This was mid-tier leveling ground, enemy mobs clustered in rotating patterns, mineral drops used for crafting midline gear. Perfect for quiet grinding. Nothing rare. Nothing flashy. Just numbers. Raith liked it here. His rifle sat balanced across his arm as he picked off 3 stonebacks from a cliff's edge, each shot deliberate, sync to drone coverage, movement tight and controlled. May was stationed farther downhill, guiding Levine's vines through a group of echo wasps, training her new bond pulse timing. Tora ran cleanup, swinging wide arcs through the mobs. Raith softened first. 3 players. 3 movements. Efficient. Quiet. Growing. And then, the air shifted. Not with monsters. With intent. Nova flickered beside Raith's shoulder. Ping spike. 3 human players, no tags. Not party linked. Not local to this zone. Raith's hand froze. How close? 70 meters. Closing fast. Formation spread, triangle compression. May's voice whispered through comms. I feel it. Something's wrong. Tora gripped his axe tighter. We are running? Raith didn't answer. He was already moving. They arrived hard and fast, 3 dark gear players with faded insignias on their cloaks. Blood well, but unofficial. No rank tags. No bounty claims. Just watchers. And today? Hunters. They didn't speak. They didn't emote. They just attacked. The lead burst from a grapple line, targeting Raith with a sweeping energy halberd. Raith ducked under the first pass, fired a warning shot. But it wasn't a bluff. The enemy dodged, rotated, and followed his movement perfectly. Nova barked, predictive trace active. He's reading your past fights. Raith narrowed his eyes. Then give him something new. He slid backward over a ridge, planted low, and opened drone sync wide, firing in irregular pattern. His left drone cut across the enemy's charge arc. Tick. The halberd user was fast, but Raith's terrain trap was faster. The shot hit dirt just behind him, causing a burst angle redirect. Dust exploded upward, masking the line of sight. Raith moved again. Flanked. Waited. Then. Bang. First hit landed. Partial stagger. But the other 2 weren't idle. A sniper on the ridge opened fire on May. She deflected one shot with a spirit bloom barely, but the second cracked her shoulder. Tora surged forward, intercepting the third, a dagger user coated in displacement runes. He wasn't quick enough. Tora took a shallow cut to the ribs, grit his teeth, spun and countered. A little help, boss. Raith didn't look back. He was already lining up his next shot. Nova. Tagged the sniper. Done. He fired high, clean over the ridge. The drone pinged midair. Red arc. The shot dropped perfectly into position, ricocheted once off terrain, and struck the sniper in the back of the helmet. It wasn't lethal, but it was enough to stagger him out of scope lock. May retaliated, vines lashing upward, blinding burst through the smoke. Lunavine pulsed a chain heal across Raith and Tora as her bond skill activated. Back on feet, May said sharply. Raith called back. You good? I'm angry. Tora laughed. She's fine. The dagger user came in again. This time faster. He blinked twice, using a short-range phase dash to confuse spacing. Raith tracked him across both drones. Nova chimed. He's pattern ripping. He wants to trigger your system shot. Raith's eyes narrowed. Then don't give it to him. He fired 3 staggered rounds off-tempo, off-pattern, intentional misses to bait dodge reflexes. The enemy stepped into the wrong spot. Drone 2 activated point-blank suppression. Caught. Raith didn't fire a follow-up. Tora did. His axe spun, cleaving through the staggered rogue and dropping him with a single burst strike. Off the board, Tora yelled. Next. The halberd user surged back into the fight, body glowing red now. Berserk core, Nova warned. He's committing to overheat. Raith fired once. The shot bounced off the armor. Tora braced. Nope, I'm not tanking that. The berserker lunged straight toward Raith. And that's when May acted. She called Levine's root snare from the side, not to catch the berserker, but to lift Raith just slightly into the air. Enough elevation for an angle. Raith didn't hesitate. He fired downward at a low curve angle, the bullet ricocheting off a half-buried relic on the field, then up into the back of the berserker's knee. Tag landed. Drone sync hit from both sides. And the impact detonated. Berserker down. Third and final enemy dropped. Silence. System pings chimed. Player defeated. No PvP penalty. Observational squad confirmed. Loot denied. Private status active. Tora stood over the last one, panting. No drops? Seriously? May knelt, watching the bodies fade into code. They weren't here to win. Raith stared at the data trails left behind. They were here to watch me fight. Nova pulsed. Bloodwell test squad. They gathered footage. Expect analysis to circulate within a day. Raith picked up his rifle. They can watch all they want. Tora grinned. They'll need a slow-mo camera to keep up. May smiled faintly. Next time we strike first. That night, Raith received a message. No name. No tag. Just text. We don't understand your class, but we've seen enough to call it real. He deleted the message, then reloaded the rifle. May had never led a raid pull before. She'd been part of plenty. As a support. A backline healer. A spirit manipulator. But never point. Never the first name on the line. That changed today. The quest was simple. Event raid, Spirit Nest Breach. Zone level, 24 to 30. Boss type, Field-bound Queen. Objective, clear corrupted spores. Kill the Nest Queen. Survive Swarm Wave phase. Rewards, mid-tier bond gear, XP, and unique skill trigger chance. Raith stood at the edge of the nesting cliffs, peering through the scope of his rifle. Tora cracked his neck, pacing behind him. May stood ahead of them both, fingers resting on the soft glow of Levine's orbit. Raith looked her way. You sure? May nodded once. I've watched you lead for a while now. She turned, gaze calm and steady. It's time I stop watching. Raith didn't question her. He just said, we follow your rhythm. The nest was built into a cluster of twisted roots, pulsing with faint green light. At its center, the queen spore spike, a massive arachnid plant hybrid wrapped in armored bark and glowing spores. Surrounding it, smaller mobs wander spores, thorn creepers, leech lings. The usual rhythm was simple. Clear mobs, push boss, survive swarm phase. But May moved differently. She didn't wait to pull them forward. She advanced first, slow, calm steps, Lunavine floating beside her. Spirit burst, she whispered. A faint silver pulse rippled from Lunavine, tagging 5 enemies. The moment the light touched them, May leapt into motion. Thorn Creeper 1, rooted. Creeper 2 pulled forward. May spun midair, staff flaring with spirit light. Her attacks were fast now, each strike echoing with residual lunar energy. Raith moved up to cover her blind side, but she didn't need it. She ducked under a lunging leeching, redirected its charge with a vine whip, then shattered it with a focused burst of moonlight. Nova chimed in Raith's HUD. Kill sequence registered, 3 within 8 seconds. Bond chain forming. The Bond skill evolution detected. Lunavine plus May. Skill unlocked, Pulse Bloom rank I. Effect. Chain healing burst triggers every 3rd enemy kill in a single engagement window. Radius increases with rhythm sync. Raith blinked. She evolved. May didn't pause. Lunavine flared beside her, glowing in sync with her heart rate. She dashed into the second wave. Tora laughed as he joined the fight. Well, damn, little moonflower. Look at you go. May smiled mid-spin, vines curling around a spore spike lieutenant. Keep up then. Tora slammed into the next group, buying her space to chain more kills. Raith moved to high ground, drone syncing automatically. He didn't need to direct the fight anymore. He just covered it. The swarm phase began after the queen dropped to 40%. Hundreds of smaller spores burst from the nest, filling the field with chaos. Movement slowed. Damage stacked. This was the failure zone. The part where most parties cracked under pressure. May didn't panic. She didn't yell commands. She walked to the center of the field, Lunavine fully unfurled behind her. And she whispered, "Let's bloom." Her next kill set it off. A pulse of radiant healing burst across the field, weaving through Tora's shield, catching Raith's shoulder, repairing burn damage from a creep's spike. Pulse bloom triggered again. Then again. And again. 3 kills. 6 kills. 9. Her rhythm was perfect. Lunavine pulsed in sync like a living metronome. Raith paused on a reload and smiled. She wasn't keeping up anymore. She was setting the tempo. The queen reared back, its final mechanic activating a sweeping poison cloud meant to erase the party's momentum. May stepped forward. Spirit roots burst from the ground, defensive vines creating a dome around them. Pulse bloom activated on impact. Raith called the final shot. Tora slammed the queen into place with a bash. Raith's bullet flew clean through its core. Boss defeated. Raid clear. Spirit nest breach. Time, 12:11. Team survivors, 3 of 3. Bond skill, permanent unlock achieved. They stood in the afterglow of the nest's collapse. Tora leaned against a half-cracked spore pod, wiping his brow. "May," he said. She turned. "You scare me a little." She laughed. Raith stepped over to her, rifle resting against his shoulder. He didn't say much. Just looked at her with quiet pride. She met his eyes. "I'm not trying to catch up to you anymore." Raith nodded. "You're not behind." The system message came without warning. Field event activated, Area 9, Broken Arch clearing. Condition, field lockdown. Respawn disabled, teleport disabled, timer, 10 o'clock. Raith, May, and Tora were mid-hunt when the message dropped, clearing out wolfkind packs for material quests. One blink later, the sky above the trees shimmered with violet static, and the outer terrain pulsed like the map itself had been vacuum sealed. Tora stared up. That can't be good. May checked her interface. No teleports. No backups. No exits. Nova chimed, low and clear in Raith's HUD. Zone lockdown confirmed. 10-minute forced hold. Mob influx begins in 60 seconds. Raith didn't flinch. He crouched near the collapsed stone arch in the clearing center and began drawing lines in the dirt. May blinked. "What are you doing?" Raith marked 3 angles. "The field doesn't favor the mobs. It favors whoever sets the funnel first." Tora knelt beside him, watching the lines. "You're building a kill box?" Raith nodded once. "Most players panic. They run around, get surrounded." He looked up. "We'll give them one direction to die in. Time remaining, 0:57. They moved fast. Raith shifted debris, stones, logs, broken armor into a half-circle against the cliff's natural curve. May summoned Lunavine to lift a ruined wagon frame and place it to block the northern ridge. One exit down. Tora drove his axe into the side of a boulder, carving a makeshift trap line using his chain core mod. By the 30-second mark, they had one opening in the field just wide enough for mobs to flow through single file or cluster in threes. Raith took the highest ledge above it. "May right side," he called. "Binders and slows." "Got it." Tora left side. "Pull aggro. Turn them in." "Like a wheel," Tora grinned. Raith locked his rifle's new magnetic chamber, drone sync orbit ready. "Let's spin it then." Timer, midnight. Lockdown begin. The trees pulsed. Mobs burst out of the mist. First wave, standard infantry, lost hollow soldiers with cracked armor and null eyes. They sprinted into the kill lane, fast, reckless. Raith fired once. One shot dropped 2. Ricochet. Precision mod. Tora stepped into the path, spun, and clipped the third, redirecting the next 3 toward May's trap vine. Lunavine pulsed, pulse bloom triggered, healing flickered back across their team. May didn't even flinch. The mobs kept coming. Wave 2 came 2 minutes in. Corrupted archers. Poison-tipped javelins. Shadow wolves trailing behind them like smoke-made teeth. The tempo changed. Raith didn't. He adjusted angle, clipped a wolf midair before it touched May, snapped the next shot into the archer's flank, then rotated drone sync to the right. Nova marked that boulder. Tagged. Bang. Bang. Shots chained across 2 enemies, third dropped from chain reaction. The funnel was holding. The plan was working. 3 minutes left. The final wave roared. Bigger units, now twice the size, plated with dark stone, swinging massive, rusted halberds. Mini-boss class. "Watch it," Tora yelled, backing off. "That one's got stagger immunity." May called out, "Redirect the line." Raith didn't. He didn't retreat. He dropped down into the kill lane low, steady, and called both drones wide. He didn't aim for the boss. He aimed for the terrain. "Nova." Thread path confirmed. He fired once. The shot bounced off a log, up a slope behind the mini-boss's leg. Boom. It struck a buried trap node left from a failed quest. Chain detonation. The shockwave knocked 3 of the heavy units sideways right into May's vines. She activated her pulse. Bloom, bloom, bloom. Tora roared, sweeping in with a full-charge strike that smashed 2 elites into the cliff wall. 6 down, he barked. 4 more. Raith rolled left, pivoted, fired up. Final mark hit the largest brute clean through the eye. Shut down. Timer, 0:19. Remaining hostiles, 0. The field stopped pulsing. The violet shimmer faded. Teleport systems reactivated. And the world went quiet. They stood in the center of the broken field, surrounded by corpses and shattered terrain. Raith checked his ammo. Half mag left. Tora leaned on his axe, breathing heavy. Anyone else sweating? May pulled her hood back. Nope, she said. We planned for it. Raith nodded. We survived because we didn't react. We shaped it. Nova added softly. You dictated the zone. Field lockdown cleared. Rank, S+. Completion time, 9:41. Team survival bonus activated. New entry in Raith's log. Field tactician tag, unlocked, hidden. Description: successfully control enemy flow and terrain during a live lockdown event. Survivability and pattern dominance noted. Back at the nearest outpost, a Bloodwell scout watched the system log scroll. He noted 1 name, 1 timing, 1 layout map, sketched in real time by drone capture. He didn't speak. He simply typed a message. He's not just winning fights. He's rewriting them. The forge sat half buried under the cliffside, smoke curling from iron vents like steam escaping the past. There was no teleport here. No vendor hub. No fast travel marker. Raith found it by tracing an old and used trail that wound behind the hollow southern ridge, a dusty path worn down by time and neglect. May and Tora stayed behind at the outpost. Raith needed to do this alone. He stepped into the forge. It was dim, lit by orange coals and the faint glow of suspended rune chains that hummed softly against the walls. A single figure stood at the workbench. Tall, broad shoulders. Metal-ringed gloves that sparked every time he moved. He looked up once. Didn't smile. Didn't welcome him. Just said, "You're not here for something pretty, are you?" Raith stepped forward. "No." "Good," the man said, turning back to the bench. "I don't do pretty. I do honest." His name was Croyle. A weaponsmith who used to work for one of the system's central guilds before leaving during the 3rd balance rewrite. He didn't craft for glory. Didn't chase stats. He made weapons the way people made bridges. To hold. To endure. To match the person using them. Raith placed his current rifle on the workbench. It was clean. Basic. Efficient. Croyle ran a hand across it without touching the trigger. Mag cores slightly off-center. "I adjusted it," Raith said. "I can tell," Croyle replied. Silence. Then Raith asked, "Do you know what I need?" Croyle didn't look up. "I know what you don't." For the next hour they didn't talk much. Raith stood near the edge of the forge, answering short questions. "Do you lean into recoil or fight it?" "Lean." "Favor the left or right drone on reaction shots?" "Left." "Reload trigger at full empty or partial?" "Partial." 16 rounds average. Each answer sparked a new shift in the metal Croyle worked. Not sculpted. Engineered. By the end of the session, the new rifle sat on the bench matte black. No chrome, no ornament. It was longer by 3 inches, with a flexible rail lining the spine and a 4-switch elevation dial just behind the scope. Spinal repeater MKI. Raith lifted it. It felt heavier, but not slower. Balanced to the exact center of his body's rotation. Croyle wiped his hands on a cloth and leaned back. "I didn't make that for a class." Raith nodded. "You made it for a rhythm." He left the forge before nightfall, walking down the same trail in silence. Nova spoke once. Performance specs confirmed fire rate reduced by 0.2 seconds per burst. Recoil harmonized. Accuracy window widened during off-stance pivots. Raith didn't respond. He was already testing the trigger pull. It clicked once, clean, smooth, mechanical. No magic. No skill bonus. Just trust and steel. Back at the outpost, May looked up from her log as he returned. Tora was still sorting loot from the last lockdown. "You look like someone who's about to scare a boss," May said. Raith held up the rifle. "No more guessing my shots." Tora squinted. "It looks plain." Raith smiled faintly. It's not meant to look like anything. He turned it over once. It's meant to feel like me. Later that night, in a low-tier training field outside the city wall, Raith fired 27 rounds in practice. None missed. Not because of auto-aim or lock-on. Because he finally had a weapon that didn't need to correct for him. And in the back of the field, behind the old ruins and scorched marks of past fights, a new echo signature pulsed once in the dirt. Silas had passed through this zone yesterday. But Raith didn't chase it. Not yet. He had his weapon now. And that meant he was almost ready. Raith didn't want attention. He wanted distance. He wanted clean movements, silent shots, and terrain that shaped to his will. And for a while, he had that. But even silence leaves a footprint. It started with the logs. System analysts at Bloodwell's lower citadel stared at the latest dungeon activity charts, confusion spreading between them. Zone 42C Eastern Bloom Spire, cleared at 1706. No killed. Then how do we have a clear time? Boss is gone. Minibus 2. Loot record active. Solo? Unknown. The analyst paused. A final line hovered near the bottom. Engagement echo. Undisclosed thread type. Tag. Null. He tapped the screen. What kind of player clears a zone clean and doesn't show up in any logs? A quiet voice answered from the doorway. The ghost kind. They turned. A man stepped through the hall, tall, lean, and draped in black-piped crimson armor. His spear hung low across his back, not in readiness but like it knew where it belonged. Karnas. He looked at the logs once. Then spoke without asking questions. Find me the next one. In the upper outpost fields, Raith moved like a shadow behind the tree line, scouting a new type of terrain enemy. Burrowfangs. Fast, armor-light, group-spawned predators with tunnel ambush logic. Most players handled them with AoE or turret placement. Raith handled them with patience. He waited until two surface tagged the third with a drone trace, then rolled backward and fired one clean shot off a cliff face. The round curved, struck the drone ping. The echo pulsed downward and triggered a seismic spike. Burrowfang group dislodged. He shot twice more. Each shot found bone. Each corpse fell without a roar. Nova chimed in his HUD. 3 eliminated. No aggro triggered. No detection logged. Raith reloaded. Keep it that way. A message appeared later that evening, unrequested, unreadable, unsigned. Your shot cadence isn't registered. Your class thread has no ID. You've left too many clean zones behind. Below it, a name. Ghost signature. Raith didn't reply. But in the next dungeon he switched to burst mode and took 6 perfect shots before his drones had to move. Nova updated silently. System has applied new tracker flag. Echo flicker. Description. High-efficiency presence with inconsistent engagement logs. No known class match. Back in Bloodwell's elite hall, the scout captain reviewed the latest terrain breakdowns. 23 zones cleared in the last 2 weeks. 8 had no boss drops logged. 4 were cleared without mob reset. 1 had the final boss die out of bounds. All of them had one thing in common. No trace of the killer. The captain looked up. Karnas leaned against the wall, eyes half-lidded. You already know, don't you? The scout said. Karnas nodded once. He's threading the system. Not breaking it. He stepped forward and the spear on his back hummed softly. I can feel his shots like wind pressure. He turned toward the north maps. He doesn't shout when he fights. He just subtracts things. Meanwhile, at the edge of a silent snowfield, Raith crouched above a shallow ledge, watching a group of raiders engage a low-tier boss. He didn't fire. Didn't move. He watched their formation. Their positioning. The delays between healing and tank rotation. He wasn't here to snipe. He was here to learn the rhythm of others. Nova pulsed. Observation mode active. No system presence detected. Raith whispered. Good. In a zone far beyond the fields, beyond the mid-tier maps, where the cliffs break into shattered red lands and the system starts to bleed old geometry, a player sat cross-legged in the center of a glitched altar. His armor was jagged and black, wrapped in flickering shadow scripts. He wore no helmet. His eyes glowed white with a dim pulse. He read Raith's latest echo from a system trace. One name pulsed on screen. Raith / ghost signature. He didn't smile. Didn't speak. He just whispered to no one. So, you finally started playing. And then his screen went dark. That night, at a low-traffic trade point, 2 players whispered about the rumors. I heard there's a sniper that never misses. I heard he cleared a zone, and the server didn't notice until it reset. They say he doesn't even use named gear. Yeah, and he's got no profile. No guild. No logs. A third voice spoke from the shadow. You don't find him. He finds you. And then that voice vanished. Just like the rest. It wasn't announced. It didn't flash across any public UI. There was no system tone. Just a quiet message that appeared mid-dungeon between one clean shot and the next. Challenge board, entry detected. Rank, 197. Category, efficiency-based, threaded sync detected. Raith paused behind a rusted-out engine husk, wiping dirt from his gloves as Nova pulsed the message again. Challenge board, he said quietly. Nova's voice responded just as calm. Unofficial system leaderboard. Measures players based on movement rhythm, combat precision, resource use, and terrain efficiency. Raith checked his HUD. No fame boost. No icon. No cosmetic tag. Just a quiet slot on a board no one talked about unless they knew how to get there. Who else is on it? Raith asked. Nova paused. Names are scrambled unless you reach top 50. Raith looked out over the field toward the edge of the zone, where two mobs walked a perfect patrol pattern. Then I'll climb, he said. And he fired. Far above EVO's main servers, in the locked analytics strata where system admins monitored player patterns and engagement cycles, a flicker of light marked a new alert. One analyst blinked. He made it. A second stepped forward. Challenge board. Yeah. Clean entry. 197. Came out of nowhere. Name? No tag. Threaded classification. Gun user. They looked at each other. Then brought up the record. Raith, echo flicker tag, precision sync class detected. Movement, untraced. Combat patterns, non-standard. System mark, key flag, unconfirmed. Bloodwell got the message 20 minutes later. A courier drone dropped it at the edge of their territory. No signature. No metadata. Just a single line written on old-style parchment. He's on the board. The envelope was delivered straight to Karnas. He stood beneath the archive tower, watching low-ranked Bloodwell recruits spar half-heartedly in the sand. When he read the message, he folded it once and tucked it into his gauntlet. Then said aloud, 196 people stand between me and him. Raith didn't mention the board to May or Tora. He didn't need to. The next time they entered a dungeon, something was different. The AI adjusted mob patterns, slightly pushing more enemies toward his angle. The boss targeted him faster. His terrain syncs pulsed cleaner. May noticed first. Your drones are reacting early. Raith said nothing. Tora chuckled. It's like the game knows you're about to move. Nova spoke softly. It does. The system is learning you. Raith didn't look up. Then I'll keep teaching it. In the training field east of the saltgrass wastes, two advanced players sparred under the watch of their squad captain. The one in red armor blinked mid-fight, his HUD pulsing. Challenge board just updated, he muttered. The other player grinned. What, you drop? No. Someone new joined. Thread class. No tag. The captain looked over. What rank? 197. The captain raised an eyebrow. That's not someone climbing for fun. That's someone rising for a reason. At a windless plateau near the edge of the obsidian divide, a black-cloaked player stood beneath a tree. His eyes flicked across the air as an invisible message arrived. Threat class identified. Challenge board rank, 197. Echo flicker signature confirmed. He smiled for the first time. Then whispered, I was starting to get bored. Silas sat down beneath the tree and marked the coordinates on a blank map. Not to hunt Raith. Not yet. But to prepare. For the moment Raith reached the top 100. And the system couldn't hide him anymore. Later that night, Raith stood alone on a rooftop in the neutral city of Cauldron's Run. The sky was painted with system stars, fake, flickering points of light coded to match real constellations from Blue Planet sky. Nova hovered beside him. You're being tracked now. I know. You're being ranked now. I know. She paused. The board doesn't just count wins. It counts mistakes. Raith knelt, checked the spinal repeater's barrel. Then I'll stop making them. The world had gone still. No anomalies. No PvP ambushes. No event flags. No whispers from the system. Just missions. Dailies. Cleanup quests. Target logs. Grind routes. Normal. Raith moved between them with mechanical ease. Stoneback outposts. Spyglass wreckage. Crater forged or farms. His shots were clean. His movement fluid. His rhythm unbroken. Tora sat on a collapsed tower ledge, chewing on ration bread as he watched Raith finish clearing a cave zone without a word. He tossed the wrapper over his shoulder. I think he's starting to get bored. May didn't answer. She stood quietly nearby, Lunavine drifting lazily beside her shoulder like a sleeping wisp. Tora glanced sideways. You see it too, right? May nodded. He's not chasing XP anymore. Then what is he chasing? May tilted her head toward Raith, who was reloading with calm, measured motions. Tempo. That night, the three of them made camp near a quiet lake in the Wakingwood stretch. No mobs patrolled here. No system pings. No bounty boards. Just stars real or not and the soft ripple of programmed water against shore stones. Tora snored lightly near the fire. May rested against a mossy tree. Raith stood at the lake's edge, watching his reflection in the still water. He looked at his gear light armor, the spinal repeater on his back, drones idle, folded inward. No shine. No flash. But his. Nova whispered quietly. You haven't used threaded overclock in 6 days. Raith didn't blink. Haven't needed it. You haven't dropped below 93% accuracy either. Raith didn't smile. I'm learning the system's breath. Nova paused. The system is learning yours too. The message arrived at dawn. No tone. No pop-up. Just a faint ripple across Raith's HUD, like a heartbeat echoing once through cold steel. Thread pulse incoming. Stand by. Raith froze mid-cleaning. Nova said nothing. He stared at the words. Watched them fade slowly into the corner of his UI. Not urgent. Not threatening. But present. A pulse. Not of danger. Of recognition. Elsewhere far from the lake, far from the grind, deep within the obsidian divide a black screen flickered to life. Coordinates updated. A red marker appeared. A thread pulsed. Silas looked at the map, tilted his head slightly, and smiled. Back in Bloodwell territory, a scout ran through the halls, breath sharp, message clenched in his hand. He reached the archive tower, skidding to a stop at the base. Karnas opened the door before he could knock. The scout froze. Karnas took the paper. Read it once. Thread pulse incoming, origin, echo flicker, classification, key tag pending. He closed the door without speaking, and went to retrieve his spear. Raith stood in the mist near the lakeside, still staring at the faint glow in the corner of his HUD. May joined him, silent. She didn't ask what it meant. She could tell. His calm had changed. Not broken. Just shifted. She stood beside him for a moment, then said softly, You ready? Raith exhaled through his nose. I've never been ready. She looked over. But you always act like you are. Raith glanced her way, and for the first time in a long time, he smiled.